All right, we are live, everyone. Hello and welcome to my team members. We're just gonna wait a little bit for all the viewers to catch up, and I'm going to locate this email Paula just sent me. And if everyone can, share the live stream link, that would be really great. Putting my little computer here to the test, trying to do too many things at once. Hello, if you're watching, just say hi in the comments so that we know we're not alone. We can see everything you say, so, be nice, I suppose. I'm going to kick off in about 30 seconds once I locate this email from Paula and retweet this link. All right, fantastic. Everything's lagging. I love my life. Okay, I retweeted. All right, hello everyone and welcome to Revolt Festa 2021. Oh my goodness, yay. Yes, we can either make noise or we can clap now. Yay, we have made it. Thank you everyone so much for joining me. I'm just gonna open up. Oh wow, we have some, I'm not gonna promise too much chaos today. I know I've promised chaos to my team in the past few weeks and have not adequately delivered. So I'm just going to say that we're going to have a good time today. And I guess one of the most important things is that I guess we're all here to kind of say who we are, which I hope we have started to demonstrate through our presentations. And I also hope we can kind of document where we're at in the company, what the first year has been like, and so on. So I hope that one day we can look back just for us at the company and everyone else to see, hey, this is what we did in our first year. And I also hope that, you, the viewer, and my team members can get something more out of this as well from hearing the origin story of our first year. But before we get to that, hello, I'm Wallea Eaglehawk. I'm the CEO and founder of Revolutionaries. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm a bit scattered. It's 7 a.m. This is our last Festa event. My apologies if I come across really weird. Okay, but first, before we really get to anything, I just wanted to start with an acknowledgement of country. So here we are based in Australia, but we are obviously operating internationally, as you'll soon find out from our team who are based all around the world. In Australia, it is customary to do an acknowledgement of country because we are in a colonized white settler society. So the land that I'm broadcasting to you from today is actually not my own and traditionally not the land of my people. So I wish to acknowledge the Kabi Kabi people who are the traditional owners of the land which I am broadcasting to you from today. Their sovereignty was never ceded. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. We are nearing on our annual celebration of Australia Day. So this is another reason why I'm saying this, which openly rejoices the start of the dispossession and genocide of First Nations people, a day of national shame, which I wish to openly condemn here. I also want to say that I stand with the First Nations people of Australia, as well as all marginalised groups facing oppression under colonial, patriarchal and capitalist rule around the world. So there's just a bit of positionality for you before we kick off. This is kind of already speaking to a lot about what we believe in at Revolutionaries and what we are working towards. So although we might all look kind of chilled out, sitting in our offices and our bedrooms all around the world, I just want to be really clear that we are incredibly passionate and working towards social justice, racial justice, justice for all, total liberation for all, and that is the name of the game. Although the name of our company is Revolutionaries, we are trying to embody the revolutionary spirit in that respect, and the spirit which is not colonial, it's not patriarchal, and it's definitely not violent. This is a loving revolution which starts and ends with a love of ourselves and extends outwards to everyone else, including you. So welcome. Thank you. I hope you feel the love today because I'm about to start getting emotional already, it seems. So yes, as I explained, I am Wallea. I started this thing a year and 1 week ago today. So we're going to come together. We're going to talk about the company, what our practice looks like, and just kind of have a bit of dialogue as well, which is kind of like the summit part. I just came up with words when I was naming this. I hope you just play along at home wherever you are. Make sure you are following us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. That's just a plug. Please do. It'll make Madeline very happy when she's, looking at all of our statistics for the month. Also, if you want to win a free ebook, do you want to win a free ebook? I'm feeling generous. Who cares? All right, so I have some copies of Idle Limerence and I Am Army that are up for grabs. So make sure you're following us on Instagram and Twitter at least, and please Facebook. Facebook is just a sad space for us, truly. But follow us there as well, because I think we could turn it into something cool. So just send us a direct message on any of those platforms with what copy you would like to receive, and we will hook you up. So it's not really like win, it's kind of just get. So just for the next 24 hours, hit Madeline up through our direct messages and we will hook you up with the goods. Okay, so as long as everyone's settling in, once again, you can leave comments and we will answer your questions as we go or at the end, depending. I will just make that decision on the spot. But also, apart from that, everyone can see your comments, and it's really nice just to see who's watching and who's supporting. Hello, I already see a team member's watching us. I already see, I see two team members are watching us. I see Marta, one of the cover designers, cover artists for our book, is watching us as well. So I'm very happy that you're all here, and I hope plenty of people who haven't otherwise engaged with us before. Oh my goodness, Tyler, you are spamming the comments. I hope plenty of people who haven't interacted with us before are also here today just to get a feel for who we are as a company, and I hope we are able to convey that. Okay, I'm gonna calm down just a little bit, hang on. Oh boy. All right, so the first dot point I have here is how I first came to start Revolutionaries. So essentially, I'm gonna take everyone back in time and tell the story of how I started the company and introduce each team member as they joined our team in chronological order. So this time last year, or just a bit before this time last year, I was writing my first ever book. And I was shopping it around to agents and publishers to see if they were interested in publishing it. This was a really difficult thing to do as a writer. While on the one hand, I was going through the entire creative process of making a book. On the other, I was trying to sell my soul because it felt like, some people say, oh, if you enjoy writing or if you enjoy what you're doing, you should just do it for yourself. That is not the case for me. In order for me to actually enjoy what I'm doing, I have to be able to share it. And I have to feel like it's actually making a contribution. Otherwise, I'm just not going to want to do it. So I was trying to get published. And it was incredibly difficult. The feedback that I was getting from publishers was that my work was great, but one, BTS and ARMY fandom is incredibly niche, and I should probably just try Asian studies or Asian culture publications. The other was that because it is a cross-genre book, it doesn't really fit very easily into any of their publishing streams, and they would find it incredibly hard to market. And I do remember one incredibly kind editor was very interested in signing me, but just said she did genuinely not feel like she had the confidence to break such a title in the United States because it would be a very hard thing to get around. And she was also not part of the fandom and not really already working in this area. So, I mean, at the time, that kind of information was devastating because I really would have preferred to write my whole book knowing that it had a place to go in the world. I found the whole process very disempowering to receive emails from people saying, sorry, it's just not that good, or they'll just say something incredibly blunt because you can tell it's just, they've just been like, no, I can't do this. And they're just giving the quickest response they can. Someone even said to me, well, I thought it was interesting at the start, but no, I don't think I'll accept. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, is there something wrong with the middle or end? So anyway, I was going through this a very intense process personally. And the whole time I was trying to figure out, do I just write the book and then like self-publish? Do I just write the book and then look for a publisher? Eventually, around December 2019, I totally gave up on looking for a publisher and just thought I would focus on writing the book and see what happened after. Fast forward a couple of weeks, I'd already been doing some research and kind of surveying the landscape. I realized that if I was having this experience as a young emerging writer and as someone who wanted to write about BTS and fandom and social theory and do cross-genre work, there surely must be other people in the world doing the same. And further to that, there must be other people having a really hard time trying to get their creative work out there. And I hadn't only experienced this with publishing my book, I'd also experienced this when I was trying to write and publish articles throughout the year of 2019. Although BTS, which is a a group that I definitely specialise in writing about, who are, not witches, they were definitely on their rise to fame, of course, getting more and more recognition. It didn't mean that the publications I was submitting to were interested in getting me to write about them. They would much rather get their staff writers to put together a very quickly researched piece that could get a lot of clout online. So they weren't really interested in investing in the communities that they were writing about. So that was also something that I had observed. So definitely by the first week of January, I was getting really frustrated. And I was also thinking that maybe I could find and connect with other people who were experiencing the same thing as me and give them a platform to empower themselves and to speak themselves. So that's kind of the point. The creation of the company came out of a real painful part of my life in that sense, because all of my identity was tied up in this as well, all of my hopes and dreams. So that's kind of where I went, you know what, F it. And by that I mean the swear word F it. And if you are familiar with my writing on Medium, there is an article called that as well. I'm just going to start my own publishing company, because not only did I want to publish my own work, I wanted to keep building to my vision for what I saw were revolutionary ideas, revolutionary people, revolutionary practices, and revolutionary studies. So that's kind of where my head was at the start of this. It's not something that I planned for many months. It was literally something that I said, oh shit, I think I have to do this. And I did it right away. And that kind of just says a little bit about me more than anything else. I'm very interested in planning, and I do plan a lot, but there often just come points in time where I have to act quickly. And that was one of those points in time. So on the 10th of January, 2020, I registered Revolutionaries as a private company. And I had no idea what I was actually in for. In my mind, I was like, okay, easy. I'm going to learn how to publish books. I'm going to publish my first book. And actually, I know someone with one other book that soon became 2 other books that I could publish. And therefore, I could probably hit up this person and see if they want to publish. And I can put it out on Twitter that I want to do books with people. And, you know, then I'm sure it will just have a very natural progression from there. And everyone will buy my book because it's great and it's about BTS and the fandom is like a massive market. And surely everyone will understand my very complex social theory of vital limerence. I mean, that's easy. Like, we'll just put it out there, make a tweet, it'll sell. So that's kind of, I was hesitant, but I was a bit naive. I was excited. I mean, when you start something, it's, I think, always best to be 100% hopeful. And I definitely was. And that soon was chipped away out throughout the year, which we will cover. So here, I want to throw over to the founding member of Revolutionaries, Deanne. So hello, Deanne, you were with us from day one. Actually, you were with us before day one. So can you explain how you came to be part of this company and the whole story of how you saw this company suddenly spring to life? Because actually you were the one that told me maybe I should do it.
Well, thank you very much. And of course I was around, and welcome to everybody. It's such an exciting day for us, and to be sitting here with my girl colleagues, it's just incredible. And this is a big moment. And of course, day one for Wallea was her birth with me, because I'm her mother. And hello.
I apologize if no one knew that. That was the weirdest way to start. Oh my goodness.
So day one was really way back. And, you know, the cycle and process of life is very curious, isn't it? And I would never have thought at this point in time I'd be sitting in what is, for all of us sitting as revolutionary colleagues, a professional space as well as a passionate space doing what we love. And to be working with my daughter is just kind of gobsmacking. And I didn't see it coming. It's kind of funny, isn't it? You bring up someone and have cross-influence each other all the way along. But I just thought, oh, you know, she's getting on with her thing, and oh, well, yeah, like she's writing her book and we'll just kind of support where we can as a family. And meanwhile, I was doing my own writing and increasingly having difficulty with what I was wanting to write about, which was love, and particularly the love ethic from bell hooks in America. I just thought, I don't think there's too many publishing companies around that will actually be interested in what I want to write about. And do I want to spend 2 years trying to find a publisher and fitting my out there ideas to the publisher? And I was kind of just moseying along, really aware of Wallea's, incredible challenges of trying to write a very complex book with no certainty of where it would go after that. And it's not that different to where I was at, except I have a fully fledged career as a social work academic. I've published 60 other documents and articles over my career. So it wasn't my first book, but it was my most passionate topic. I had dared to break with all the conventions in social work where there is no mention of the word love, no mention, not in any of our key documents, not when we're talking about our practice. And yet empathy, compassion, and understanding for others is the bedrock of what matters when you're trying to support and help people on their way, which is what social work's about. So it just took me a few decades to realize that for some reason was a dirty word and I didn't get it. Why isn't anybody talking about that? And of course, here's Wallea talking about limerence and love as a safe, toward an idol in particular, as being safe and important for healing. I thought, we're talking about the same thing. We've just come at it from a different angle. And why didn't I see that? And oh my gosh, so there was these slow awakenings as Wallea was freaking out at my desk just here when I was trying to do my work. Here's my daughter freaking out about, oh, does this make any sense? I just wrote it and oh my God. And this published, there was just this emotional roller coaster for her that she was just giving you a sense of. And I thought, oh my God, what? And of course, COVID made it such that we were alone together in this house. She was over one side of the house, I was over another, and I could hear her coming. I thought, oh, here we go. What's the latest disaster? What's the latest?
Heard me coming. All right.
And I'd be trying to work on something.
I do walk we have wooden floorboards, so I make sure I'm holding my laptop and I am making very loud footsteps. I'm like, stop your work. I know it's the middle of the working day. I have something to tell you. There's a fandom update. I just wrote this really whack chapter in my book. Hey, let's start a publishing company.
And I think I just need to mark this assignment. I'm in the marking spot. I have the thoughts of what I'm going to say about this assignment. And oh my God, here she is with this separate reality, but barging into mine. And I think, oh, I can't bear it. And of course, my own rising anxieties about my own writing was kind of always put to the side. So I actually Wallea actually worked with me on editing a book during 2019. And after that one was written, I thought, well, that didn't really say what I wanted it to say, which is like it was a very big book on activism making a difference in the world, where I first proposed what's called the love ethic model. And my whole purpose in tagging that into a book on other people's activism was to build a model of practice that I could start to name how important love and justice and non-violence is to social workers when I'm teaching them, because this is my passion, teaching social workers to be revolutionaries in the world. And so I tagged this very first comment about love ethic model in that book that Wallea and I co-edited. And afterwards, it doesn't really, it's a bit dry, and who's going to read that? It's such a classic, academic book. And so I thought, I need to write another book, which kind of paralleled when Wallea was writing her book. And here we both were freaking out, because anyone who's done any writing, big or small, knows it's highly emotional, and you really got to put yourself in it and really imagine your audience and kind of write to them. Yeah. So I definitely want to put myself in the story, which is an unusual way to go about an academic book. So we ended up recognizing that we had hello. Ooh.
Sorry, we just had a little spoiler for later on. Hello, everyone. Now you know what to look forward to.
So we ended up in the same freak out moment basically. And when I got a review back for my book, the next book proposal from Routledge, with all due respect to Routledge.
Name dropping. Right. I didn't know we were going to start talking about other companies.
Otherwise, it's just this random place, and we've got colleagues from Oxford as well. And yay, go all these big companies, because they have been and continue to be really important. And we're happy to work in that landscape with them. But when they wrote back to me, they said, "Oh, we don't really like the way you put your own story in there." And really love social work? No, they just didn't want me to. And I had a bit of a random way of writing it, which was really trying to engage the reader with all sorts of, reflective points and so on. And at that moment, I thought, I really don't have the energy to reconstruct this idea, which was obviously precious. And then here was Wallea, and she was just getting her own book happening. I thought, I need to take the jump. I need to take the leap of faith into this new thing that I don't even know if she knows what's going to be, and publish my book there. And my academic senior colleagues might not like it because you're meant to publish in, reputable, well-known places, to get the credibility. And I thought, it doesn't matter. I just got to publish this book with someone who believes in the work, and I got to get it to my students so I can teach with it. So that's what happened. I took the leap of faith with her, and since that, I've been terrified and delighted all the way along. So is that a good enough?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yes. All right. So we're going to loop back to you to talk about your books just after we talk about this next little segment. So we're going to go chronologically. So you joined because you had said to me around the start of January, Wallea, I think you're just going to have to consider self-publishing. I think you're just going to have to do it yourself. And inside my head, I was like, but there's so much stigma around self-publishing. And to some degree, I see discourse, I see people talking about me and about the company, and they still believe that this is self-publishing. And they still believe that this is me just building a company so that I can publish my own work. So I knew that that's, of course, I built a company to publish my own work. What's wrong with that? But the way that people are saying it is if I'm getting everyone around me just to praise me and only publish my own work. So I knew that all of that was before me, and I wasn't really interested in putting myself in the line of fire in that respect. But it got to the point where I went, you know what? I have a background in arts production. I have a background now in book editing. I have a background in writing. I have a background in owning many businesses that have done very well. All of this is going to come together and converge in me doing my own company, and I'm just going to find the right people to make it happen. So that is how I first came to start the company. So the very first thing that I had to do was go, oh, crap, I'm about to finish writing this book, which I did in January, and we edited through February. I have to simultaneously launch a company and publish a book, and I don't know how to do that. So the first thing that I did was learn how to publish a book, which was I went very traditional self-publishing route, but also I knew I needed help. So the first thing I did was I put a call out on Twitter saying, hey, I'm starting a company. We're situated in Army. I'm a massive Army. It's going to be about BTS and Army and loads of other things. I need a graphic designer. And so this is the first tweet I really put out about the company. And so now I want to just introduce our next team member that joined us after that, who is Paula. So hello, Paula. Introduce who you are, your role at the company, and tell us how you found out about us and why you wanted to join.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Paula, and I'm the creative director at Revolutionaries. I'm in charge of the creation of our visual identities and brand for our imprints and events, as well as designing every book cover. So yes, I'm the first non-blood related member. Yay. And everything started in February, I think. It was actually pre-pandemic, so that's quite curious. I came across a tweet that was asking for army designers and typesetters, and I actually recognized Wallea because I had already read some of her articles, and I really liked what she stood for and the quality of her writing. So I just kind of went for it and sent a few works of mine, not expecting much of a response. But I was wrong because Wallea contacted me and told me she liked my work very much and that she would love me to join her. So I first did the logo for Revolutionaries. That was our first thing together. And we saw that we worked really well together. And I ended up working on the typeset and cover of Idle Limerence, which was a really special and stressful, of course, experience for both of us. And yeah, that's how we actually produced our first book. And
oh my goodness. Yeah. Yay. So Paula joined us in about, I'm going to say towards the end of January or the middle of January. Yeah. And then we were a bit slow to start because we were we have to figure out everything. It was a lot. But Paula first designed, the logo for Revolutionaries. Thank you. And then promptly went on to Idle Limerence. So Paula did the typeset and the cover design and everything else to do with Idle Limerence. So at the end of March 2020, we released our first ever title, Idle Limerence. Yay! So the official release day was March 29. Thank you, Paula. Yes, thank you. Everyone looks so excited. So March 29, 2020. So here is the first book we released. I also worked with an amazing fan artist called AJ. You can find her at AJ Makes Art to do the cover art. So it was important for me from the start to engage directly with the fandom that I was personally a part of. So that meant engaging directly with ARMY and making sure that if I was going to spend money on this project, it was going to go to another ARMY. That proved to be very successful because it seemed like we had a special way of communicating. I know, like between Paula and I, and between AJ and I for the cover artwork, we seemed to just understand each other in a weird, different way, because I could just say a few words like, this is what I want. And AJ just instantly knew because we were communicating through our identities as fans. So that was really special for me. And that was definitely the highlight of that whole period of time, because around then I was really going through it and I was having a very hard time establishing this company by myself and being surrounded by all the wrong people. Also around this time, definitely the first day, so this book, Idle Limerence, was released on a Sunday here in Australia, and on the Monday, all of our COVID lockdown rules came into place. So for me here in Australia, I know it was different for everyone else in their countries, what time like the pandemic really hit. So of course I saw it coming from early on in the year. Didn't think it would make it all the way out to Australia because I was like, hey, we're pretty isolated. But it actually goes to show how much travel everyone did and how much of an international country Australia is, because a lot of people who live here also work in Asia, also go to America frequently. Like, it blew my mind when I really thought about how many people actually travel for work, and also how many people get to live a life where they just travel for leisure as well. So everyone coming into the country managed to bring the pandemic, thank you. And we had to shut our borders really quickly. So that started to make me worry. Like, oh my goodness, I've just started a book company. We just released our first book, and everyone who I asked to review it was emailing me back saying, I don't think I'm ever going to read this book because life is terrible and I hate everything. I was like, oh, okay, great. That's fantastic. So everything kind of spiraled a bit from there. And it was a really difficult time because I didn't know what was going to happen to the company. And here I just want to mention, and if you want to know more about exactly how we publish books, you can look at Oda's panel about exactly like our workflow and how we do print on demand currently for like our printing. So that meant that I at the start, we started with no money. I just want to be really clear. Like, this was a very last minute decision for me to start this company, and one of the main rules was that we had to like invest a very small amount of money because we didn't have any money to put into it. So just want to be really clear on that one. So that meant that I instantly went to print on demand, which essentially means I can upload all the files to a company website for free, and only when I order the book do I pay for it, and it gets printed automatically and shipped from the warehouse. So that meant that we weren't having to store any books here, and I wasn't having to handle the customer service or the printing and shipping. So at that point in time, I mean, everyone that I was talking to was really looking down on me and the company for doing that because it wasn't the traditional way. So I just want to be clear here that, yeah, we're probably not going to do the traditional thing ever, and that's what's ultimately going to set us apart. But while we were setting up, and while it was just me, facing all these people alone, that was really hard to try and always feel like I had to justify or explain the vision that I had for this company, because actually what we're doing is so much more than just print on demand. But when people looked at us, all they saw was print on demand, you're only publishing your own book. So I had to hold that vision and keep working and moving forward, knowing that eventually people will start seeing what I've been thinking of and dreaming of this whole time. So immediately after, yes, Idle Limerence, bam, that's gone. Just chucking that away. All right. We don't abuse books in this household, I swear. We just have so many of them. All right. So after that, immediately after that, we started production on Deanne's 2 books. So an interesting thing, my goodness, we're going to have to, I hope everyone's in it for the long haul. If you need to go to the bathroom, just go for it. We will definitely be here when you get back. So we began production on Deanne's books. When Deanne and I, interestingly, sent off the proposals for both of our books, Idle Limerence and then her special book project, in November at the exact same time. We were sitting next to each other on the couch. It was like 8:20 at night. I pretty sure I made note of this. We had 2 very different books, both about love, which is why I was like, oh, look at the synchronicity. Mother and daughter ended up writing books. Oh, how funny. Yeah, weird brag. So we sent our proposals off, and then our journey then became quite different. Like Deanne then was accepted initially. Her proposal was accepted. My proposal wasn't. And I thought that's where our journeys would split and we would just do our own thing. When we realized that we were going to publish Deanne's book, I was incredibly excited because this was my first chance to become like a book producer. So, you know, we always hear about, like, especially with BTS and throughout all of K-pop, who produced what. And my understanding of, like, we don't hear a lot about book producers. So I just want to be clear about what I mean when I say that. I was excited to firstly give her book a name and tell her exactly what to do. And I know that sounds really mean, but I had a really clear vision. I was like, Mum, I totally get you. I totally get what you're trying to say. I don't think you're communicating it properly, and I'm going to help you. So this was where I was first able to say, I really value what you're bringing to the table. You are so experienced, but actually I have some ideas to contribute. And the first thing was giving the book a really clear name and breaking the book into 2 parts, which would then go on to become a series. So these are the first 2 books that came out from Deanne. This cover text is also designed by another ARMY. I do believe her name is Amanda. Yes, Amanda Espinosa. Thank you, Amanda. And then Paula also designed and typeset these books. So first of all, I really wanted to focus on giving like a really cool brand called the Revolutionary Social Worker, which is a big thing to ask someone who has been practicing in social work for 40 years to brand themselves as revolutionary. And I know it's a lot for any of us to start branding ourselves as that, but that's what I was like, we need a clear cover that looks exciting, doesn't look like a textbook, and, you know, let's start from there. So that was kind of the first book project I really got to produce from start to end. And I got to be the editor as well. So I got to edit and help develop all of this book. So Deanne, just in like 2 minutes, 2 minutes tops, can you tell us a little about your books and just whatever you want to say about them? Just 2 minutes.
2 minutes and there's 2 books.
But by the way, everyone can look at Deanne's panel from yesterday. It's up on YouTube. You can watch the replay. So if you want to know more actually about the content in the books, this is just your chance to be like, I have a book, yay. All right, so 2 minutes.
Really, the book is for anyone who wants to know how to be revolutionary love. And it's radical in that I've placed it in social work and said, hey, you social worker colleagues of mine, I thought these are my peers. I need to speak to my peers first before everybody else. What is it that motivates you? What is it that guides you in the hardest of moments when you're working with clients and communities and organizations that have become really toxic, whatever it is, whoever it is you're working with? What is the guiding light for your practice? Because it is so complex when we're with people, especially where there's violence and conflict and trauma and tragedy and loss happening. And so I've built a model for practice, basically, out of a lot of the research and stories of people's lives that they've shared with me over many, many years. A model based on values, and model based on the breadth of social, psychological, and economic and other theories, which all come under the heading of anti-oppressive values, anti-oppressive theories, and placed it into a model which has some key processes and methods that people can follow, bits of, depending where they're at. And some of the key values are things like honouring people's stories, because at the heart of social work, and I believe at the heart of healing, is listening to people's stories, recognizing and affirming people, and showing that we are with them, no matter what it is. You may not be able to do anything else. It's the most important. It's where healing happens. And I think that's where so I think that's what the books were trying to do, basically. Yeah.
And then I just want to put in here, and we'll look back to this later in the official summit part, but actually this is the ethics and the principles and the beliefs that you had in your book, of course, were the same ones that you raised me with, and then went on to inform our company ethics as well. So we'll talk about that later, because actually that explains a lot about how we value stories and how we operate as a company. Okay, so moving promptly on. Around this time, I had also put a call out on Twitter looking for contributors to a book project called I Am Army. So being situated in fandom from the beginning was really important to me, and then also doing work within the fandom to build community, to give back and to just connect with other people, and give a really clear message about what we want to publish. That these were all really important things to me. So instantly I put out this call for I Am Army. I said, hey, what's your army story? Let's write a chapter, put it in a book, and hey, let's make the first book in the world about the army identity. So yes, locating, documenting, and celebrating the diverse voice of army was one of my goals. And with a tiny company, it was actually starting to come to life. So Manolin, I'm going to bring you in here just quickly, not in your professional Revolutionaries role, but actually as a contributor to this book. So you weren't part of the team at this point in time, but can you talk a little bit about how you came to hear about I Am Army and decided to contribute a chapter? Because I'm guessing this is also maybe how you actually found out about Revolutionaries.
Yeah, sure. And I love telling this story. So I did speak on it a little bit in the I Am Army panel yesterday, so I'll try and just be concise with it today. But yeah, I had seen the call for pitches around this time last year, and at the time I was in a master's program fully dedicated to autoethnography, or that was kind of the point of the culminating portfolio, and I was like, oh, this sounds like exactly what I'm currently doing. 2, I already have a lot to say about my army experience. Actually, I should have prefaced this by saying just about a year or 2 prior, I myself was thinking, oh my gosh, I would really love to one day write a book about BTS, or contribute to one at least, because this is such a huge, important sociological phenomenon. I myself have a background in sociology, so I just really wanted to see more literature out there that really captured ARMY and BTS for what it was. And then, of course, I went off to grad school, and I thought that I could do it while I was in grad school. That was biting off far more than I could chew, and so I had quickly within my first semester kind of resigned to myself, okay, maybe I do not have, the capacity to be like in a million places at once, and kind of shelved that for what I anticipated would be at least 2 years while I earned my master's degree. But this is actually turning out to be a little bit longer than the panel yesterday. But I was so surprised, and so pleasantly surprised, to see this call for pitches, and so I immediately sent one off to this company that I knew nothing about. At the time, the Twitter account only had like 50 followers, and I was like, I feel like I'm just taking a leap of faith here, because I really want to work on, writing about BTS, but like, is this a reliable company if there's only like 50 followers? Like, they seem pretty new, but you know what? Like, let's just do it. And it wasn't until April that I heard back. And yeah, this part I did not cover in the panel yesterday, but I would be remiss if I didn't share it, because it is very, very special, because that was a really horrible day for me. A family member of mine had we thought it was COVID. We were pretty sure, because, it was right around the time that the pandemic was starting. But it was also around the time that all of the emergency rooms were full. There was no getting them into getting checked out, even though they were showing every other symptom under the sun. And I was 1,000 miles away, trying to complete a master's program, or trying to do work for a master's program that I had grown increasingly just disenfranchised from, dispassionate about. I myself was not doing well mentally, and I'm literally like packing my things to start driving the 15-hour drive, on the phone with my friends, sobbing and crying, because I had no idea what to do. And then I got the email that said, your pitch has been proposed, or has been accepted, and we would love to invite you to write for I Am Army. And that night was the one thing that pulled me out as much as possible, given all the circumstances of this horrible, horrible headspace that I'd been in. So from the very, very beginning, I would say all of those circumstances, whether it was, oh, maybe I got to shelve this dream of mine for a couple of years, and then only to have it brought to the forefront immediately, basically, within just a couple of months, and then down to the very timing of that email that during a really horrible day. My involvement with the Revolutionaries, but specifically, I guess, my I Am Army story was special from the start. So I hope that I kind of went on for a bit there, but that was the beginning. So.
Yeah, that was how we first came to know each other. So that's very special. Thank you. All right, so this was in April, and of course I kind of jumped the gun a bit that Deanne's books came out at the end of May, so I showed them before. Oh, too excited, getting my timeline all wrong. All right, so now it wasn't all right. So I Am Army was due to be typeset at the end of June. And Paula actually at the time was finishing up her honours degree. So she was like, I'm out of here, just briefly while she was preparing her thesis. And so we were like, oh my goodness, and the pandemic hit really hard. A lot of things were happening in the world. So we postponed for another month. So we started putting I Am Army together at the end of July. And it wasn't until we started preparing for the release of I Am Army in August and September that things at Revolutionaries really started to progress rapidly. So I'm not going to focus too much on the first 6 or 7 or 8 months, just because they were quite grim, and it was mostly just me, and Paula was trying to do her thesis, so that was very stressful. And Deanne was not quite like fully involved at the company at the time, because we're like, oh, we'll just see how it goes, so it was just me against the world. Well, that's what I felt like anyway. So I'll just skip to the really happy parts. So in August, I, as part of the launch of I Am Army, I think I haven't actually got it here. All right, so I'm just going to give the cover of I Am Army, which was also designed by Paula and typeset by Paula. And then Paula's sister, Marta, did the artwork, which was just a really awesome experience to engage with another army and to go through that entire process from like concept to, all the different stages of creating and doing cover design. So that was really exciting. So I'll just talk about that one now, and now I'll quickly move on. Okay, so in August, I delivered a number of presentations and discussions at the Rise Home Connect conference. At this time, I was beginning to look for one other team member who could help me do all the things. I was unsure if I'd be able to find the right people to fill out a whole team, and I wasn't sure like who wanted to dedicate their time and who didn't want to get paid for doing hard work. It's like, I don't want to ask this of people, but I thought I would just give it a go and see if there was someone out there that wanted to volunteer their time alongside me building the company. So I appeared on a publisher's panel and talked about how I was looking for what I was calling at the time an assistant director to help me make books. So I had thought about a role where someone could become like more of my assistant, and I could train them to actually do. At the time, I was just a director because I was the only member, and I didn't want to like claim a massive title, by the way, because obviously I introduced myself today as the CEO, so that has changed a lot since. So yes, I was looking for an assistant director. By the end of the panel, I had received a message from Oda, who was interested in joining the team. So Oda, can you tell us about yourself and why you wanted to join the team?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Oda, and I am I'm going to introduce myself the correct way now. I'm the director of publishing director. And I listened to Wallea at this conference, and I thought, hey, this is something I want to do. I have a background in publishing. I'm a publishing professional, and I also have education in publishing. So I thought, okay, I would love to dedicate my time to something that I really believe in and something that fills a niche that I want to see filled and that I would love to be a part of filling. And I also, I didn't know much about Revolutionaries before I messaged Wallea. I think I might have followed some of the social media accounts prior, but not for very long. But I thought Revolutionaries would be a place I could both learn and develop myself, but also contribute in a meaningful way. So that is sort of why I decided to slide into Wallea's DMs, or to Revolutionaries DMs, I guess, and put myself forward as a candidate.
Yeah. So yeah, you said, yeah, I'll be assistant director. And then as soon as I started talking to you, I was like, wait, you just need to be director of publishing. Like, please take that from me, because it is such like a difficult task that I am not prepared for. So that was amazing. So Oda was like, yeah, a breath of fresh air for us at Revolutionaries. So if you want to know, I'm going to skip this next part, but if you want to know more like about book publishing and BTS books, I would recommend checking out Oda's Festa presentation, which is called BTS and the Book Revolution, I do believe, or something like that. There we go, already forgotten. So yeah, that's already available for replay if you want to go watch it. So I just skipped this part so we don't need to have our general discussion as I thought we would, because I have talked for far too long already. So moving on. A few weeks later, I Am Army was launched, and Madeline and I began to discuss all of our wonderful ideas about books and fandom and life in general. One day, I floated the idea that she should come and work for Revolutionaries. So Madeline, can you tell us very quickly about your role at Revolutionaries and why you wanted to then, after publishing with us, join the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So I now serve as communications director for Revolutionaries, and it just, by this time I had left my master's program, so I was definitely looking for something to fill my time. I was really riding the high of I Am Army, and just, you know, amid all of the shame that came with dropping one's master's program, but also all of the, I guess, soul searching that I was subsequently doing, like, who am I if not living for academic approval and validation at all times, realizing, okay, no, you know what, I need to do something that really is fulfilling to, like, truly healthily also fulfilling for me and my soul. And the experience that I had with I Am Army throughout all of that summer, amid the pandemic, amid the decision to drop my master's program, it just felt like all signs were pointing, like, yes, you're headed in the right direction. It doesn't feel like it because things feel like they suck right now, but here's something that doesn't suck, and here's your opportunity to take it to the next level and join the team. And yeah, I think it was essentially an immediate decision. I feel like I can remember the conversation. It was like almost like a hypothetical, like, well, I could use help, and then me being like, let me help, or I will help, something like that. And yeah, so I manage all of Revolutionaries' social media, and I pay attention to what's going on in fandom, so to help us write and engage with the audience, like our target demographic. And if you want to know more, I also have my presentation in which I really do a deep dive in that, and I'm sure that's available for replay too.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Madeline. I am so glad that you went from being a stranger to a contributor to an author to a friend and then to a director. That's just one of the many pathways you can take to get into Revolutionaries. Not everyone has to become my friend first. That sounds kind of weird, but that's just, I want to just show, I guess through that I can demonstrate that in the first year of Revolutionaries, I was really aware of everyone that I was engaging with and seeing if they wanted to share their ideas with me, how could I help them? Could I help them get published? Do they want to be part of the team? And I took everything really like seriously. So it's like, well, here's Madeline in my DMs. We're having these great philosophical life conversations. I see that she has a background in sociology, which is amazing because that's my background as well. And I think from everything I've observed with her Stan account on Twitter, she is actually really good at communicating with people, creating really good quality content. And although she doesn't have a direct background in communications, I actually think she can become an amazing communications director. And that I can give her a position that she can grow into and make her own. And that was kind of my vision for that. Whereas with Oda, it was more obvious. It's like, Oda, you already have a degree in this. Like, please just come publish books. And Oda was instantly able to tell me what to do. And I love that. Like, I don't want anyone to get the wrong impression that like somehow I'm like the big boss and I don't want anyone telling me what to do. It's like, please, I will gladly accept the help because I don't want to build this alone. I don't want this just to be a reflection of me. This company has to be a reflection of all of us. because that is what is truly revolutionary, not one person, especially not a white person. Although female, yes, the revolutionary is definitely not male. That's all I'm going to say. But we're, let's be non-binary. That would be ideal. So I'm going all over the shop with this one. Okay, I'm gonna quickly move along. So back to Oda. So Oda's first project as director of publishing was to work with Paula on our next book. So this is another book that, just to link into what I said before, I was really just being open to whoever was approaching me, whatever people had to say, especially if they were Army. I mean, everyone at this point was Army. I was approached by an Army who said, I have this really weird idea, kind of she kind of said it as a joke, but then it was like, haha, but I'm actually serious. I have been making BTS-inspired cocktails and posting them online. My friends think it's really funny. I think we could just make like a really fun book. So I was like, okay, this is my first year. It's not particularly on brand for Revolutionaries because we're nonfiction. So I'm like, okay, I guess it is nonfiction because it is true. Like these are cocktail recipes. It's not fiction. But it's like, how will I make this idea fit? Because I wanted to be responsive to what fans and what people engaging with me wanted to some degree. So I was like, how do we make it work? So I thought, this is another book that I was able to produce in the sense that I wanted to control the message. Well, not control, but contribute to the message, the branding, the title, everything, and how it actually fit into what we're publishing as a company. So I thought, hey, we started actually planning for this in May of 2020. And this was all during the time of the Black Lives Matter peaceful protests and the subsequent police brutality, and then what went on to be deemed the riots in America. I thought, hey, it would be great if we just released something really fun and uplifting that then donated a large portion of the profits to racial justice charities and non-profits in America and around the world. Just to say that we do understand at Revolutionaries sometimes we need to not be so serious and we can actually engage with people on a fun level. And also from a marketing perspective, I thought, hey, this is actually something that we've been going really high concept. And what I think I really struggled with Idle Limerence is that, and this, I'm really trying not to toot my own horn, but it is high concept. It's not like, for example, a picture book. I'm not releasing a magazine with pictures of BTS, which also has great value. I'm not saying anything about that, but I'm saying what I am trying to say is I created a really complex social theory. And not everyone likes social theory. And not everyone who does like social theory can necessarily understand what I'm saying, and nor do they have to. So how else can I engage with Army, our main demographic at this point in time, and also give back to them, and also be responsive to this person in my inbox saying that they want to publish this book? So Oda's first project was to work with Paula on Bring the Spirits, and this was also Madeline's first project as communications director. So this was like a first time that we could all kind of operate as a little team over on our Trello board. All right, so here is Bring the Spirits. I don't know if you can see it properly in my tiny little, yes. Yay! So this was the 5th book we had published for the year. In October, I do believe it came out. All right, so that was a really interesting project just because it was so different and because, there's pictures on the inside. I know Oda kind of talks a bit about that in her presentation, so you can go look at it. All right, so that was October. So now we're in the month of October. Oh my goodness, we're nearly at the end of the year. So now I'm just going to do a hard segue. Before Revolutionaries was a company, it was a publication, an online publication. In May of 2019, I started 2 online publications, Revolutionaries and Bulletproof. And this was in direct response to me and what I then assumed would be other people not being able to be published by other publishers when they wanted to write articles about BTS and Army and revolutionary things in fandom. So this is then what I went to build my company on top of. So throughout much of 2020, I had successfully coordinated a team of writers and editors to create articles specific to Revolution and BTS. But by the end of October, I was looking for someone to carry my vision forward and launch our 3rd online publication of Moonrise, which then also was to be our printed book imprint as well. So here I'm going to introduce our newest member. So Aurora, can you explain our interesting origin story of how you slid into my DMs and then also slid into my inbox and became the director of, the editorial director?
Of course, with pleasure. Yeah, I feel like everybody has a somewhat professional origin story. Mine possibly less so. It involves a lot of Instagram stalking of Wallea and the Revolutionaries page. This is how I first came to find out about Revolutionaries, was a sponsored post of Idle Limerence. And I fell in love with the brand and everything that Wallea was doing right away. So I watched from the sidelines for a really long time. I was loving the content that Wallea was producing, both on her personal page and the Revolutionaries page as well. And one day she released this, a bit of prose that she'd written, and I had such a reaction to it. It was, like I felt what she wrote, like the floor dropped away. I felt like I'd been hit in the chest, like I had a really incredible emotional reaction to what she'd written. It was like seeing my own thoughts on paper in front of me, and I couldn't quite figure out how I was reading my thoughts when I hadn't written them yet. So I had all of these emotions and nothing to do with them. So I slid into Wallea's DMs. I decided to just to thank her really for being so vulnerable, sharing that part of herself, and also for creating Revolutionaries, creating this safe space that we could all grow, but grow in a really like a comfortable and a safe environment to grow. So we were challenged, but we were still all moving forward together. So I got overly emotional, shared way too much with a complete stranger at a really odd hour of the morning, all through DMs. There was a lot of fear behind that too. I had these concerns that I wouldn't be taken seriously. I'd assumed that Wallea would be surrounded by a team of amazing people who would be showering her with praise, and the nice things that I was saying would be meaningless. But I pushed through that fear and shared what I was feeling with Wallea, and she responded so beautifully. It was really meaningful, and we ended up creating a friendship from that, and talking and learning about each other, learning about our journeys and where we were headed, and we really connected in that space. And I'm so grateful to Wallea for actually replying and not just thinking I was a massive, over-the-top, emotional weirdo. So yes, we were friends for about a month or so, and then I saw on the Discord server a recruitment notice for a medium coordinator. I didn't know too much about medium at this stage, but I knew that I had experience in editing, and I really wanted to be involved with Revolutionaries. So I sent a ridiculously long email. It was epic, but it was my my argument as to why I needed to have this job. And within 20 minutes of me sending this email, Wallea had replied and told me that I had the position. There are a lot of tears. I was in a public place, but it didn't matter. And then I think it was on that same day, possibly an hour or so later, we were exchanging emails back and forth. It then changed from a coordinator position. Once Wallea had learned a little bit more about my actual background, she asked me to take on the role of editorial director, and again, I accepted straight away. So yeah, that's a story of how I came to be.
Oh my goodness, I nearly started crying there for a second. Oh my goodness. Okay, we can just have like our friendship festa for all of us another time where we talk about all of the conversation we've had, and like because I don't want to cry on this one, but we can cry later. All right, so that's amazing. Yes, Aurora was hiding her brilliance from me the whole time that we were talking as friends, and I was amazed to see the most epic email. And I did share it with Madeline at the time because I was like, oh, what on earth is this? And we were both getting, like, Madeline and I were getting, well, I was definitely getting teary, and Madeline was like, what on earth? So Aurora set like the standard that I now expect from everyone when they apply. So if you see anyone getting a job at Revolutionaries, you know that they've done a really good job with their introductory email. Because, also I want to just put out here that when we do recruit I'm not, for most positions, I'm not really concerned with your professional experience. I'm more concerned, do you have the time? Do you have the drive? Do you have the vision? And can you articulate this to me in an email? Just one email. You don't need to attach your CV. I don't personally care. Like, I've never really looked at anyone's CV, except for some very specific positions, which we can talk about a bit later. But what I guess because I'm a writer, first and foremost, I can really pick up on how genuine someone is and what their intentions are through how they construct an email. So that's definitely what I was blown away with Aurora. I was like, oh my goodness, because I just said on the recruitment announcement, please respond to what I'm asking for in an email. So please tell me like how you think you fit this role. And then if you do a good job, it's yours, and just don't muff it up later on, right? And we can keep working together. So Aurora did an amazing job, and she instantly took over doing all of that. So throughout all of 2019 and 2020, our online publications were like our public-facing selves, because when we didn't have books to publish, we would always be publishing the articles. So they would be contributed by just randoms from the internet who were passing by, who wanted to get their story off their chest. And we also had like a team of writers who would regularly create content for us. So this also just speaks back to what I really wanted. I want anyone in the world, if they have a story and they find our publication and go, I think this story fits here, I want them to get published. I really dislike publications that gatekeep, that don't provide opportunities and pathways for emerging writers, or especially like even people who are older and trying to re-enter the writing scene. So coming from both angles, young and old, and everyone in between, people who have English as a second, third, fourth, fifth language, who might have some problems just needing some editing or some guidance or just some support. I experienced the negative side of all of that, where none of that support was available, because of course all of these companies, they're trying to make money, and I do understand. But here at Revolutionaries, we got to build something from the ground up where we didn't have any money, so we could actually kind of like not care, because we're all volunteering our time, and we all came together and decided that, well, definitely when Aurora joined and when everyone joined, I think we already had these same ideas in mind, that we want to invest in the community and build a community around empowering people to speak themselves, to love themselves, and give them any opportunity and pathway that we possibly can within the realms of our voluntary hours. And that's kind of where we wanted to start, because everyone has a voice, everyone has a story, and at Revolutionaries, we believe that story needs to be heard in one way or another, and we're going to get it out there into the world. So I think starting small and starting incredibly without money has meant that we haven't had to focus as much on it, because we don't have to try and suddenly meet these targets or beat any targets, because there are none. So it just means that we can really focus on the writer and create an enjoyable, empowering experience for them, which then in turn creates a community of people that would show up to our Festa, would show up to other events and buy our books, because, you know, they want to know more about us and they want to connect with us, and that's what we're interested in building. Okay, moving on. We're nearly at the end of the year. Don't worry, everyone. So it's now November, and Deanne and I are working on our last release for the year, 5 Essays for Freedom. So here it is. Yes, plot twist, spoiler, it did get released. I wasn't going to draw that one out. I decided to bite the proverbial bullet, getting a bit wordsy over here, and advertise for a director of marketing position, where we ultimately came to recruit 5 people. So only 2 of them are here today. But shout out to Reggie, Tyler, and Catherine, who are watching, or I hope you are. I know Tyler, you definitely are. You better be watching. Come on, everyone. I'll do a quiz afterwards. So we got a lot of interest in this director of marketing position, and this was the first time that we actually had to reach beyond our current networks. So our current networks consisted of scholars, people who wrote for us, and people who were just kind of engaging in like the written word in that respect. So, oh yes, hello Tyler, I see you're watching. Thank you so much. Gold star. So now we had to try and find someone who was interested in business and marketing. So this wasn't, I felt after like a quick survey by putting my feelers out there, making some tweets, there weren't a lot of people who were already following me or connected in with us that were professionals in this field. So this is where I started to get a bit nervous, because it's like, oh my goodness, we're going to start connecting with people who maybe don't even know who we are already. So how do we communicate who we are and onboard people who haven't already been consuming our content, like Aurora and Paula, who had already read my stuff, and Manilyn, who was already a writer. Like, so how do we explain who we are and get them to understand our vision and bring them on board? How do we do that? So Trish, we'll start with you because actually you have an interesting, so you weren't actually that far removed from our network, but you were removed from my network, but not the broader network. So can you explain how you came to work at Revolutionaries and what your role is? And kind of just say, we had a great time in your interview where you really talked about how much you wanted this position. So I want to hear a bit of like that and what that experience was like for you.
Sure. So to begin with, hello, I'm Trish, and I'm the Director of Marketing for Revolutionaries. I would say that the way that I came to know about the publisher, about your team, and about the position even, was I sort of took a side route because I was introduced to the publisher through my friend Oda, who I went to uni with. So I remember it was when Oda first took her job with Revolutionaries. Sorry, I was asking her, what is this company about? How do you find them? What do you publish? What is your role? And I remember I was so happy for her because we're both massive armies. I know that she was really inspired by BTS, and she really wanted to explore the opportunities there are for them to just be present in the publishing industry. I'm not going to talk about this too much. And I remember at the back of my mind, I was a bit jealous. I was like, this sounds like such a nice place to work and such a nice place to grow as a professional. And it was a couple of months later when I don't think the offer was posted yet or it had been promoted, but I remember I was chatting to her and she mentioned that you were thinking of promoting for a director of marketing position, and she convinced me. She was like, you should apply. I remember that I went to I went to a defense. I was like, I don't think I'm qualified for a director of marketing role. But then obviously after a bit of convincing from my inner self, trying to gain this confidence, being like, I actually have a full-time job in marketing operations. I actually have the background of publishing. I have taken all the possible publishing marketing modules where there are. I do research about marketing in the publisher sphere in my spare time. I was like, I should try and put my application forward, and I'll just go with the flow. Something will happen. I don't know how we're gonna end up. So I prepared my CV. I prepared a cover letter. I did the whole sort of full week of preparation just before I even applied. And I remember when it came around to my interview, and I was actually surprised with the fact that we were actually looking at building a whole marketing team, not just one marketing person to take up all the marketing responsibilities and plan all the campaigns and strategies. I was getting nervous because I had to be in charge of people, but now having getting to know them, and after working with them for almost 3 months, I think we're getting there. We're learning, and we are trying to work as a team. And actually, we are currently looking for more people to join our team as imprint marketing managers. This is something that I spoke about briefly in my own presentation, and this is also in the recruitment section of our website. So if you're interested in joining, please go and check it out. Yes, this is how I joined the company. I'm sorry, I haven't. It's a bit longer, but it's a long story.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Trish. Yes, by the time I'd received all the applications for Director of Marketing, I realized that something else really important to mention, everyone who wanted to work with Revolutionaries in 2020, I said yes. And I took it upon myself to figure out where to place them, how to work with them, how to make it an enjoyable experience for them. So when I saw everyone trying to apply for this position, I didn't want to only take one director of marketing and tell everyone else no. I wanted to try and utilize everyone's skills, and also keeping in mind that everyone is voluntary. They're only putting in, say, upwards of 8 hours a week. I thought maybe we could share the workload around and create like a really easy workflow where we can just put tasks up on our Trello board. By the way, we are massive Trello fans here. We even have a Trello meme stash that we like to share in our group chat, which we might drop for our second Festa. There are a lot of swear words in it though, so might have to be like a little secret thing, maybe, behind a password or something on the internet. Anyway, we love Trello. So I was thinking maybe if Trish is open to it, I could go back to Reggie, Tyler, and Catherine and say, hey, would you actually like to not be director of marketing, but would you still like to join the team? Would you like to be part of something? And I did go back to actually a lot of other people with that offer, and they came back and said no, and that's fine, because actually what I was looking for was people that wanted to be part of Revolutionaries, no matter what the capacity, because actually we do operate in, of course we have different titles, and to some degree there's a hierarchy, like I am the boss, but we try not to, I try not to lord it over everyone. I kind of say it ironically to people, but we do try to have like a really open, even structure in the company where we all are learning and growing together. So that's kind of the offer that I went back to everyone with and said, hey, do you want to come on board? Like, we're all going to be putting in the hard work. It doesn't really matter what the title is. Like, it just means that actually you have to have less responsibility. And I think that's kind of neat because you get to learn and grow, and Trish just has to cop it all if there's any mistakes. So, and then that's the offer that I gave to Trish, and she was like, let's do this. I mean, this is only in November. So this is very recent. Everyone kind of came on board in December. And this is our first like major project for our whole company together, the Festa, which has been massive. So also through this process, so I was being told by Oda for weeks, hey, this person, Trish, she's my friend. Like Oda was really chill about it, by the way, because I was like, is Oda going to try and pressure me to like hire her friend? No, but Oda mentioned a few times like, oh yeah, I do actually have someone. I'll get her to apply. And so, you know, Oda did the right thing. She didn't really try and pressure me, but I was like, okay, I'll wait for Oda's friend because I'm really interested in utilizing our connections. And it means that I already trust Trish by association. So then for a few weeks, Madeline, we won't go through the whole Subtle Asian Network debacle of how this position came about, because we shared about this in our private Festa party last week. But Madeline ended up posting the marketing director position in Subtle Asian Networking group on Facebook. Is that correct? And this is how we actually got a lot of our team members. But then I didn't get an application right away from our next team member, but for quite a while, Madeline was saying, hey, someone slid into my DMs. I don't know why I keep saying slid in. It's so bad when you say it out loud. There's this person, she's actually kind of amazing. And Madeline was telling me about her. I was like, oh my goodness. I was kind of holding out for what I was referring to in all my planning documents as Madeline's mate. I was like, yes, Madeline's mate, come through. Like, wherever you are, please send me an email. So finally, I get this amazing email from Laurie, who then I had to figure out how to place in the company, because here we have a company where we're not just about books. Of course, our outward focus is books. We are publishing books, but actually we're trying to build a bigger brand and a bigger movement than just books alone. So what I saw here was the opportunity to have Trish, who has a very traditional book publishing background and is trained traditionally, works in the academic publishing industry. And we have Laurie, who has no training in books, but is incredibly experienced in business development and strategy. So it was kind of up to me to figure out, how do I place these people and how do I create a team that actually drives us forward, not only in books, but business, and making us a revolutionary company, no matter how small and no matter how little money we're making. How do we, you know, just when you think company, you don't have to think that we're like millionaires. Like, truly, we're not. I will let you know when we are, though. We can have another celebration for that, you know, free books for everyone. But, you know, so how can we drive the growth of our company so we can get paid, so we can actually like have this as our full-time work, and all move to Korea and live together in a wonderful apartment block, and live that utopian life that some of us on the group chat often talk about. So anyway, I'm going all over the place. Laurie, can you tell us what your role is in the company and why you decided to come and work at Revolutionaries?
Yeah, thanks so much. So my name's Laurie, and I joined Revolutionaries as a COO, specifically because the DM that I slid, the inbox that I slid into, I can't speak English today, was actually Madeline's. Because when I saw her post about the marketing director position, I was like, oh, here's two things I'm really passionate about. Business development. I was really looking at the the business development side of the marketing director position, and the K-pop community. And I'm like, I have very rarely seen these two things together. So I did all the stalking I could. I tried to figure out what Revolutionaries was about. And eventually I was like, I can't find enough about this company to really tell me too much. Because on the one hand, business development and a real company sounds like it's a very cold and industrial thing. And on the other hand, everything about the K-pop community is very warm and like almost fangirlish, but it's very high energy. And I wasn't sure which of the two things I was signing up for. So I'm like, okay, you know what? This is really cool. This is the type of thing that I would really love to do. But I'm going to go ahead and send this person a message and say, can you tell me anything about this? And what I got back was so warm and so inviting, all of this wonderful energy that I'm like, all right, let's go. If this is what Revolutionaries is about, if everyone is like this, I at the very least have to interview it. I at the very least have to apply. So I spent ages writing that email. It was not the longest email in the world, but I was trying to not make it be, which means it has to be that much better if it's going to be concise. And what I found out about Revolutionaries is part of it is books, part of it is a publishing house. Part of it is business development and strategy. We are really trying to make a new brand for Revolutionaries out here. But the last thing, and probably the thing that makes it the most revolutionary, is that it comes from community. Very few book companies or even like other companies start from community. They say, here's a business idea and I want to make money off of it. And let's go get the community to like us. This company is coming the other way around and saying, we're starting with a community and we want to try and give this community more of a platform, more of a voice, to give the revolution a place to start its grassroots organizations from. I thought that was really amazing, and that's what made me really want to be a part of this. So I go in thinking like, okay, it could be any one of these things. I have a quick conversation with Wallea, and at the end of this conversation, what we realize is the main goal for us is to create a new brand for Revolutionaries around being a revolutionary in K-pop as it pertains to Indigenous people, as it pertains to loving yourself and others. And I think it's this wider message that goes beyond books, beyond K-pop, beyond community, and beyond business that made me say, I've got to work at Revolutionaries.
Oh my goodness, you make us sound so cool. Yeah, so up until this point, of course, we had I guess we had a brand in the sense that people could look at us and they could deduce what the brand is. But it's not something that I had ever sat down and really figured out. I guess for me, when I was thinking about the brand of Revolutionaries, I saw it in terms of what can I contribute and who am I and how can I channel this through the company. But it wasn't really like a plan. There was no strategy. I was just like, this is what I think a revolutionary is. I'm just going to put a team together and I'm going to hope that I find the right person to help me with the rest of it. Because honestly, my brain cannot compute, cannot handle any more processes. So I would, towards the end of last year, I was handing off all of the little aspects of my role that I was just surviving in to people that could actually build on them and thrive in them. And that's really important. I see my job now as CEO more as supporting this amazing team that has come together and finding ways to help them shine and help them follow their dreams and whatever ideas they have, to value them as revolutionary and incorporate them in the business in any way that we can. So that's essentially how somehow I'm linking this into how my role changed throughout the year. I started with a really clear idea about what I wanted Revolutionaries to be, and then I struggled to find ways to communicate that to people because I was just one person communicating it. Whereas we see from how we've all become connected into this, it takes more than just one person to make these networks. So we've all come to this through different people, and not everyone has come to it through me, which is beautiful. Like as soon as that started happening, when I found Trish through Oda and Laurie through Manolin, I was like, oh my goodness, like we're finally building beyond just my own network. And that is so important to me because I don't want to just connect with other versions of myself. That would be hella boring. Although I don't think there are any other versions of myself out there. And if you are out there, you're going to have to change because there can only be one. All right, just a little note to any of my direct copies out there. If your name is Wallea, I'm coming after you. There can only be one. All right, so I think Laurie did a great job. And of course, if you want to know, the other really cool thing about Laurie is that she is so passionate about K-pop. Now, I am passionate about BTS, and I know a lot about BTS, and a lot of us know a lot about BTS. But Laurie is multi-fandom and has been for 13 years. Is that correct? I think 13 years now or 14 years, like a long time. The amount of knowledge that she has from the perspective of a fan and then teaming that with her experience and background and specialization in business is amazing. And that's definitely what Laurie brings to us as COO, and she will be driving our development over the coming years. So please stay tuned. We don't want to reveal too much about what's coming up this year because it's still like very early stages. But trust me, it's gonna like hopefully really excite you. It's already really exciting us all here at Revolutionaries because it's all about community. It's all about K-pop. It's about developing and building our brand and just really catapulting us into the next category, into the next year, into the next echelon, whatever echelon. Ooh, this is getting spicy in here. All right, at least I didn't say shallot. I don't know why I wanted to say shallot as well. All right, so let's see. So in late December, wow, we're finally nearly up to date. In late December, we released our 6th and final title for 2020, 5 Essays for Freedom, with great success. At this point, I advertised for an executive assistant. Ooh, we all, in our group chat, we really had to think about a way to give a cool title. I didn't want to be like assistant. I didn't want to be like admin, but it's like, oh my goodness, I need someone who can help me with the day-to-day stuff. So we've covered like all about, like we even have a COO, but we don't have someone to help me with emails and placing book orders and like changing the website and doing like graphic design like on the side when Paula is busy like doing entire book projects. Like, so we've covered like the top tiers, like we've gone right to the top. Let's fill out like our management, who also happen to be like the people doing all the hard work as well. But oh my goodness, I actually just need some help. And I would also really like to train someone in everything that I do. So this kind of comes back to the position that I originally advertised that Oda took up, like an assistant director kind of thing. But I wanted to find someone that I could actually pass all of my knowledge on to. No pressure. So I thought this would be great to start with an executive assistant and then train them up and say, where do you want to go in the company? We're gonna put you wherever you want to go. So now I'm going to introduce our final member. Oh my goodness, 1 hour and 20 minutes in. I am so grateful to everyone who has hung in there and to my team for sitting through all of that. I hope it's been useful to you in some way. So Pam, tell us who you are, where you're from, what your role is, and what made you want to join Revolutionaries.
Hi, so I'm Pam. I'm from Mexico, and actually it was unexpected. I wasn't thinking about having any other job or any more responsibilities, but during the pandemic, I just felt that, I don't know, like my job wasn't enough. Like I just felt trapped, but not just physically, but also mentally. And so once a month, I try to find new books, and trying to find new books about BTS, I ran into Revolutionaries, and I was like, this is a really cool place and company. And so I just started following like all the accounts and everyone that that I could find on Twitter. And one day, and I remember that it was like a Sunday around midnight, something like that. And I was just going to bed, and I saw Wallea's tweet about needing an executive assistant. And like I was honestly just like about to turn off the lights and just call it a day, because I had to wake up really early on Monday. And I read the tweet, and I wasn't sure if I should apply. But then my boyfriend convinced me, like just do it. You have 15 minutes, and then just go to sleep, and and that's it. And I followed his advice. And then I think that the next day when I woke up, I saw an email from Wallea that said, I want to interview you and see how it goes. And that's it. That's how I got here.
Yeah, that was amazing. So Pam, can you just tell us a little bit about what your background is as well? Because actually your role as executive assistant doesn't really speak to what your actual amazing skills are. So just explain what they are a little bit.
Yeah, I studied communications, and I've always loved books. I actually wanted to have a major in media effects or media sociology, but that wasn't available where I live. So I ended up in communications, and I also love research. And at first I wanted to do academic research, but then also life took me somewhere else, and I ended up in market research. And that's what I've been doing for more than 10 years now. And what I also like doing is taking this research part and mixing it with books and BTS and fandoms. I love fan studies, so this is how I ended up here. And one of my projects for the last year, I think, has been how can brands can learn from BTS as brand, for example. So what can they do to have like more meaningful relationships with their consumers and not see them as just consumers, but also as fans. So, yeah.
Fantastic. So the other cool thing, when I had my interview with Pam, I said, hey, what is it that you want to do? Well, I said, hey, I was like, hey, I'm Wallea, what's up? I was sweating so hard at the time. She was in a jumper and I was like in the Australian heat, just dying. So I said, what would you really like to do? Like, if you could pick any role in the company, what would you like to do? And so we got to the point of realizing that Pam would really like to be editor-in-chief, which is actually my role right now. So she was like, hey, I want to take over now. But after a bit of conversation, we decided that we would put Pam on the fast track. Ooh, that sounds so fancy. To be editor-in-chief of our new imprint, Moonrise, which is our literary imprint. So I thought, hey, this is like how I can make sure it's not just like a really bland admin job, although I would argue that anything in the company is quite exciting, really. But I also want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to grow and have the role that they truly want within the company. So although Pam is joining us today as the executive assistant, she actually is so much more than that and will be working across our communications and marketing department, helping me with research, helping me put together so many important things for the company. And on top of that, she has already started editing on her first literary book project. And so hopefully I'm hoping by the end of the year even, she will be taking over as editor-in-chief for Moonrise. So no pressure, Pam, but we're going to get it done. I'm so excited. Okay, everyone, so that concludes the first part. We're going to like smash through the second part because I know I kind of only wanted this to go for 2 hours. Thank you so much to everyone who keeps joining us. And I know like our viewers keep going up. I'm like, oh my goodness, you're still coming in. All right, goodness. So if you have any questions so far, if there's something I haven't really clarified, I hope I'm communicating everything effectively. Please chuck it in the comments section and I'll get to it. I just wanted to like wrap up our first year with some stats. So we established 3 imprints, Revolutionaries, Bulletproof, and Moonrise. And if you want to know a little bit more about them, you can listen to, well, everyone's talk actually, but especially Oda's. She talks about them, Trish talks about them, and Aurora talks about them in particular. So Revolutionaries is an intersection of thought and prose for the modern day revolutionary. So that's kind of a very broad publishing scheme of anything that I deem or we deem to be revolutionary, which is based in love and progressive thinking and liberation and all those good things. Then we have Bulletproof, which is our BTS specific imprint. So everything BTS related, everything Army related that is written by Army for Army will come out of Bulletproof and already is. And then we have Moonrise, which is creative work to transport the mind of the modern day revolutionary. So in 2020, we published 6 books from 13 authors, which is amazing. And here I also just want to mention, yay, we can all clap. Yay. I also want to mention Deanne actually didn't introduce what her role is at the company at the start because actually it evolved over time. So I'll just quickly put in here that Deanne, of course, started as a founding member. And it was with me every step of the way, but we had to really define what her role was. So she is the deputy editor-in-chief. So we do all of the book editing and development together. And she also is the director, the academic director. And you'll learn a bit more about exactly how that's looking with some major academic projects this year. So stay tuned for that. We don't want to spill too many secrets just yet. So I just wanted to put that in there. So yes, Deanne is more than just my mum. She actually has a massive contribution to the company. And I mean, we have business meetings every week. We do live in the same house. We do live in the same country. Aurora is our only other team member on screen who is from Australia. So everyone else is far away. So, you know, Deanne and I do meet up every week to talk about all things business because there's a lot going on. So she is my greatest collaborator, obviously my best friend. Hi, Mum. No shame. I know, like, I was just thinking when I was 13 and 14, Mum kept on saying to me, I'm your best friend, you know, like, I'll take you to concerts, you know, we can go together. We're friends, you know, just hang with me. And I'm like, Mom, are you serious? Like, oh my goodness, don't say that. And I just remember like how I found that so embarrassing. So I just like to formally apologize to my mother for being embarrassed by that all those years ago. I'm now incredibly proud to be your best friend. So suck it, everyone else. All right, onwards. That was, I really got away from myself there. We published 142 articles from 74 writers all around the world. So some of those writers did contribute more than one. One of those writers is me, like some of them are our team members, but that is every individual writer. 74, 142. I myself, I think, edited about 109 by myself before Aurora came on board and totally saved me in October. Because as you can see, if you can imagine doing that level of work, which is a lot of back and forth emails, a lot of engaging with people, a lot of editing, and on top of 6 books, 2 of which I was a major part of in the sense that I wrote the majority of them, from 13 authors. Oh my goodness, yes, that wasn't meant to be a brag. I'm just saying, no wonder why my head hurts, and no wonder why I couldn't publish any other books last year. I was pretty busy. We now have a team of 8 staff writers and 9 editors that work under Aurora. So thank you so much to our team. We do see you. I know this was kind of focused on the management committee, but of course we have some amazing volunteers who Aurora gets to work with. And if you want to know more about that, you can watch her presentation. And by the end of December, we ended up with 12 executive team members. So we currently have, what is that? We've got, I can't even add, someone add how many team members that is. 8 plus 9 plus 12 or 29. Oh my goodness, simple math evades me. We have 29 team members, and that also doesn't include like everyone who supports us from the sidelines, who we're incredibly grateful for, everyone who buys our books, everyone who comes to these events, all of our friends and family. So I just want to give a massive shout out to everyone who has supported us. It means so much. So my vision for the company now, I think that's kind of clear, and we can cover that later. I'm just going to skip over that part. I don't want to keep talking about myself. I just wanted to say, to summarize, like the whole of 2020, I started off incredibly alone in this, surrounded by all the wrong people, especially in fandom, who were competitive and jealous and really just wanted to cut me down. I went through a lot of learnings on how to be an army, how to be a CEO, how to be a writer, how to be an editor. I am so grateful to everyone on the screen here and everyone who has supported me, because throughout the year I have learned that I'm not alone, that my vision actually is able to be communicated and understood by other people who are able to find me, connect with me, and grow with me. And now this company is no longer just mine. So I'm so grateful. I'm not going to keep talking because otherwise I'll start crying. So we're going to do a hard segue now. Thank you so much, everyone. And I know I gave my thanks to you all last week, so I hope you still feel my love from then. Now, we're just going to have a quick little segue, and then we're going to have a bit of discussion. So, of course, everyone, if you want to skip the awards ceremony, please don't. But you can get a drink, you can go to the toilet. Not you guys on the screen, by the way. I mean, like, people in the audience. No one on the screen can leave. So here we go. If you were around at the start, you will see that I totally shared my screen by accident and ruined the epic surprise of the award that Paula did in approximately 4 minutes right before today kicked off. So I just wanted to just have a bit of fun. We could give out many awards. We could brag about our accomplishments, but instead what we want to do is give away the Revolting Award. So we can all self-nominate for our most embarrassing professional moments up until this point in time at Revolutionaries. So can I just get a show of hands who wants to self-nominate? And then because I know some of us are perfect. I know some of us are perfect and have nothing embarrassing happen to them. All right, so wow, all right. And I want to self-nominate. All right, so I'm going to put a picture on the screen of our award. First and foremost, here it is. Give a nice big close-up. How do we all feel about the Revolt Awards? Most embarrassing. So we also have a great meme. Oh, hello, mother, I can hear your voice. We also have like a great lot of memes just saying, you just got revolted and I'm revolting. So we'll keep an eye out for them, where we're going to be using them for the rest of the year, because it's hilarious. All right, so I'm just going to take that off the screen because it's looking janky. Oh, no, that's me. No, we don't want that. Oh, my goodness, pressing buttons. Someone send me help. Okay, so Oda, what is your most embarrassing professional moment so far?
Well, so this only happened last week. We had an internal meeting with all the directors, and we had I think there was about 4 new team members join us. So basically the whole marketing team, and Laurie and Pam, and I somehow, when doing my introduction, managed to introduce myself as communications director, which that's not my job. That's Manolin. Manolin does a much better job at this than I would ever do. and I don't know what happened to my brain or why it happened, but apparently I claimed that title without actually meaning to, which was quite embarrassing in front of quite a few new people when you want to appear professional to some degree.
The best part was the confidence. She's like, hello, everyone. I'm Oda, and I'm the communications director.
I do have to say, well, I wasn't there. I had to leave at that point, right? But Oda and I, we really love the show Orphan Black, which, I mean, you find out pretty early on that it's about clones. So we had this running joke already that we're essentially each other's clones because we got on so well and we have a lot in common. And so when I, all of a sudden I see my, messages blowing up, Oda just called herself communications director from, multiple people. And I was like, that's fine. We're clones. Yes. But, okay. No, but it's embarrassing. It's a great embarrassing moment.
It's very embarrassing.
The point isn't, it's embarrassing.
Okay, so everyone who's watching on, just take note of who has the most embarrassing moment. And I think I'm going to get the audience to vote on who should win the first award. All right. How's that? So I hope everyone in the comments, I see you're actually engaging a lot today. So thank you so much. So get ready to vote. So that was Oda. Next up, we're going to have Deanne, who thinks that she's going to steal the show with this one.
Oh no, and I'm telling the whole world. Oh God.
I don't even know what this is. Am I going to be happy that you're sharing this? That's all I want to know.
And some of the people on our screen in our team weren't even around.
I do remember.
Oh,
yes,
please.
Oh, yes.
I was in Tasmania for one of our Sunday team meetings. Oh no, it was awful. And my mum's house where I was staying has no internet, which was just unbelievable. So I had to go to the local city park in Launceston, which is a little city area, and I had to find a PowerPoint. Oh my God, because my computer was low on battery. So I was sitting in this rotunda area close to the PowerPoint. I thought, oh, I think I'm going to be okay. I think I'm going to be looking sufficiently together and part of this conversation. And then the sun was in my eyes and the concrete floor was really uncomfortable. So I was fidgeting, I was really totally distracting the meeting all the time already by my discomfort. And I thought, oh, no, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. Holy moly, I've got to go to the toilet. Where's the toilet? And it was nowhere near. And I thought, no, not now. This is not a good time. And the longer I sat thinking about it, this is not going to be pretty. I need to go to the toilet. So I had to pack everything up. And I just tried to pretend I was walking around the park normally, but I was actually, I saw the toilet over in the distance. I thought, I hope I make it. I'm just going to make out. I'm just taking a walk in the park while I'm talking to, the meeting folks. And I get to the toilet, I thought, oh, no, what do I do? And this whole thing of holding the computer, the laptop, and trying to go to the toilet.
You got to make clear. You didn't go on camera. I just want to make that
Did I go off camera?
No,
did I have
you did, yeah. You
oh,
did.
Thank
I want to make that clear because it's you were kind of building up to make it sound like you went on camera.
But it was just so embarrassing because everyone else was talking normally. I was trying to talk normally. But, I never do tweeting or anything when I'm on the toilet, No, I don't. No, so it was a really unnerving experience. I thought, anyway, I didn't wet my pants, which was the main thing. It was really on the cards to happen, but I didn't. And so I had this other reality happening, which was so unnerving. I can't believe I just shared that. Sorry.
Oh my gosh, okay, embarrassing moment. It's this one. I just need to know, did you hold the laptop while you were peeing?
Yeah, I was trying to watch and be relevant and make, unusual noises, Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
So sorry. It's nothing to do with my age. It was because my mother didn't have internet at the house. Come on. And because the meeting was 7 o'clock in the morning. Come on. Who has a meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning? That's me.
Someone please. Okay, why am I reacting this way? That was so embarrassing. I think you telling the story needs the award. Okay, Madeline, let's go to you because this one's a lot more low key and I need to compose myself.
How am I supposed to follow that? Well, okay. I think I know what you have in mind, but I was actually going to submit something else for consideration that I find a little bit more embarrassing, but maybe I'm wrong. And it has to do with the Bring the Spirits launch party. And so at Revolt, what we use to host events like this, as well as the launch party, back in, it was November, if I'm not mistaken? It's a really wonderful platform called StreamYard, and it allows us to stream to all of these different platforms all at once, whether that's Periscope, Facebook, YouTube, you name it. And in order for us, for example, the 9 of us who are here on screen today, we have to log on to the StreamYard link so we can be put on screen. And so my task for the Bring the Spirits launch party, among others, was to just reach out to the people who had RSVP'd saying that they wanted to attend the launch party, as in be in the audience like all of our viewers are now. And so I send the mass email out, and I said, here's all of the places you can find our stream. Here's Facebook and YouTube and etc. And this was also our first time using StreamYard, so I also was like, oh, and the stream will also be available on StreamYard. And I didn't really understand how it worked until during the call when I realized I think I gave everyone the backstage link. So it's just a really good thing that no one used that link, because then they could have possibly appeared on screen while Lynn, the author, one of the authors of Bring the Spirits, and I were chatting, and she was just making cocktails. So I feel like that was more of a big public-facing mishap, whereas, well, I guess yesterday I called us Revolutionaries Press by example, and that is and that is not what we are. We are just simply revolutionaries, but that was in my presentation. So I just cheated. I guess I named 2, but for official consideration, I'm nominating myself for the StreamYard moment.
Right. All right. Well, I can already tell you, I think you've lost.
Yeah. No, definitely. I accept.
Okay, great. There we go. So I've already knocked out one person from this round. All right. I'll share mine now, and then I'll go to Paula. So this one, I mean, nothing is going to beat Deanne's, but we just got to get our feelings out there now. So I'm sure I embarrassed myself a lot last year. It's just kind of something I've come to accept at this moment. So last night I was doing one of these festas. We had a book launch for 5 Essays for Freedom. We had started the live stream, and I was just quickly retweeting the live stream link and off of Revolutionaries. And so live on air, I was like retweeting, and instead of retweeting, I somehow managed to unfollow Revolutionaries. And on air, I was like, oh shit, I just effing unfollowed Revolutionaries when I was the first. I was so upset. I was the first follower of Revolutionaries, and now I'm not. And so on air, I was just having my mild freak out while everyone joined the stream. Now I know nothing is going to seem as funny now, Deanne. You've just totally ruined it, Mum. But that was my embarrassing moment. I unfollowed my own business account, and I will no longer be the original follower. So congrats to whoever it is that was. I'll have to go back and check. All right. So, not as cool. So Paula, though, you definitely I remember you got very embarrassed by this. And we do have a visual representation of what happened as well. And it's a good lesson. And it does tie into Oda's presentation. So this is very informational.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, I think Diane kind of wins, but mine was more professionally, not social. We were making the cover for Bring the Spirits, right? And we were kind of short on time, so it was a time where the cover proof had to be good, it was important. And because we were making a hardcover this time instead of how do you call the other one? The other one? Yeah, paperback. It was completely different design, the method, and I didn't know because it was my first time doing a hardcover. And basically I was like, okay, I hope everything's okay. And then I get a mail from Wallea like, okay, Paula, can you look at these pictures? The spine is a little weird, and then the cover, and I just see that, and I was like, oh my god. Like,
okay, here we go.
mean,
This is what Paula got. The funny part was how embarrassed she got. I don't know if you can see. I'll show you the actual copy. This is what it needed to look like. And then everything was just like too big. So it just looked, and she got, so this is what it ended up looking like. So she got,
but it's a mismemory. I was just more stressed because we were a little, like, the timing wasn't the best. So I was like, oh no, why now? And it wasn't like it was only Wallea and I, it was also Oda there. And I was like, oh my God, I embarrassed myself in front of Oda, no. and yeah, but yeah, I think Diane won.
Yeah,
I think I should have another award because I made the award. So
yeah, you get the award for making the award.
Yes. Finally.
Yeah. So everyone in the comments section, you can vote now. We have Oda calling herself communications director. We have Manolin sending out the wrong link to people and also calling our company by the wrong name. We have me unfollowing Revolutionaries on Twitter on a live stream and swearing about it. We have Paula mucking up the cover design, and we have Dan going to the toilet while in a meeting and holding the laptop on her lap in a public toilet in freezing cold Launceston, Tasmania. So please just let us know, who is it that you're voting for, and I will promptly give them the award. Let's see, we just got to wait for it because we've got a bit of a time delay between what we're saying and what YouTube sees. So we've got to wait for the results to come in. It can be like the hopeful contestants on a show, like, please, I really want to be most revolting. Paula, you can't comment, you can't vote. So like, I'll just share a hilarious, while we're waiting, a hilarious meme. Here's one of our, oh yes, you just got revolted. Yes, that's what Deanne can say next time she goes to the toilet on a live stream or on a meeting. You just got revolted. And then also this is kind of what we'll have to, this is whoever wins today. This is their official meme for the year. I'm revolting. Yes, and we're even going to print this on a tote bag, so keep an eye out for that. Not RM's face, just I'm revolting. Okay, so someone's feed cut out during Deanne's. Well, you're going to have to watch that one back to watch me crying and the hilarious moment of 2021. Okay, so Deanne, I'm going to put this up on the screen. Congratulations. Let's see. You have won. Yay, everyone. Hang on, I'll wait till we can switch to everyone. Yay, everyone give your claps. You have won Most Embarrassing at the Revolt Awards 2021, and that is the only award we have to give out.
Oh, you know what's so
do you have an acceptance speech?
Yes, I do. Just very briefly. There have been a few points in my life where I've had similar close calls.
I know, that's why I was crying so much. We've been through a lot in terms of our bladders and being in public. So don't go there. Can we not? Like, don't talk about it. Mom, stop. Why would you talk about your bladder, Mother?
No, I'm not wanting to talk about that. I just want to say. Okay. That to have an award for something like that is so good.
Is this your first award? Is this your first award, professional
Pretty
award?
much.
Oh my goodness. 40 years of dedication to changing the world, and you get it for wetting your pants in a public park.
Not quite, but yes. So I'm very grateful. Thank you for all the people who voted for me. Thank you.
Great. And everyone in the comments section, I don't know how familiar everyone is with The Office, the US Office, but this is giving off major Dundies vibes. So I think for Revolt Festa 2022, we can just do some Dundies. We can call them the Revolties, and we can just like rip on ourselves. I think that's a way better thing than talking about who we are as a company and how amazing we are. Okay. Well, that concludes the first part of this panel, and I apologize if anyone has anything to do. Let's just smash out some quick, because I know everyone prepared for this next part, and that's why I want to get to it. So here, I will quickly read what I have on the screen. So cheers to us. Yeah, we're bloody cool, mate. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for a fantastic 2020. Now it's time for us to delve a little deeper into who we are as a company through a few little breakaway discussions. So we're all going to be pretty brief with this, but we just want to share some of our ideas as well. And so it's not just me talking or me crying and mum saying embarrassing stuff. So what I would really like to start with is by opening up a discussion about identity in relation to our practice, ethos, and of course, our experiences as a team and the experiences of a broader community. So for this conversation, I want to throw over to Madeline and Laurie.
Okay, thank you so much. I am super excited to talk about this next part, especially when Laurie and I were preparing for this. I was like, ooh, this is going to be good. Also, darn, I really, really, really wish that we had our own separate presentation as part of Festa to talk about this. But specifically, what we are going to be discussing today is identity as it relates to our work with Revolutionaries. I am Filipino-American myself, and that Asian identity really ties into my experience of K-pop, but of course also my experience of my life in general. And today we're gonna, in the next 10 or so minutes, we'll just discuss a little bit about how our identities shape how we approach both K-pop as well as the work that we do with Revolt. So Laurie, I'll let you also speak a little as an introduction.
Yeah, so as we mentioned previously, I have been listening to K-pop for a very long time. I've been listening since about 2008, which for me means that I was an awkward child in middle school when I first found K-pop. I became really obsessed with it in high school. And when you're that young and you live in America, anything that's different, they will find out about and they will pick on you for. So to see K-pop change from where it is when I first started listening to where it is today is really, really exciting for me, because it's all of the things, whether it's your Asian lunchbox or your Asian music, all of the things that the next generations don't have to go through because we already went through them. Those things make me really happy, and it's a new way of loving yourself. But what was really interesting is when I got to college, again, I'm going through all of this and I've not fully accepted that I love these things. I just know that this is my hidden guilty pleasure, the way that some people had hidden guilty Kesha pleasures. I had hidden guilty Big Bang pleasures. And when I got to college, my freshman year, I tried out for a dance group. And even though that dance group was built around Korean music, when I went to go practice at the gym, I would play a lot of music. And as soon as I knew someone was outside the door waiting to use the room after me, I would change it to English music. I would be like, I'm American, I'm not weird, please don't pick on me and tell me I'm strange. It took me all of college to kind of get over that. And it wasn't until after I graduated that I was able to come back and say, you know what, I grew up very Asian. I have a lot of American influences because I'm trying to fit in and act like I'm normal. But at the end of the day, I'm very Asian American, and I have these two different cultures that I'm trying to balance out. Me coming back to K-pop and saying, I am absolutely obsessed with this. I have a 4th generation boy band that I'm in love with called Treasure. And admitting that it felt like a huge weight off my shoulders, because this is a moment where I can fully love all of the parts of me and not just the parts of me that other people wanted to see because they viewed that as successful. So that's my story and background.
Yeah, and I have a very different story with K-pop. So I came into K-pop exactly 10 years after Laurie did. And as we were preparing for this conversation, I was just so astounded at how different our stories are, because what Laurie just said, having the guilty pleasure in middle school, high school, being picked on for having these interests. Now, despite my also being Asian American, I was telling Laurie the other day, if the two of us had gone to middle school or high school together, I would have been one of those people probably judging her for having her interests in K-pop, because I, on the other hand, I rejected a lot of it growing up. So where Laurie kind of had that experience of like rejection of Asian media in college, I had it more so in my early adolescence and developmental years of just thinking anything K-pop, K-dramas was weird because that's what I was socialized to believe was weird in middle school and high school. And a lot of this comes down to internalized whiteness and shame, because all of the popular kids were the white kids. None of the white kids liked K-pop too, and they all saw the people who did a certain way. So in my own efforts to assimilate or to be like the cool kids, as the song would say, I made every effort to distance myself from content like this. But of course, I still knew that I had my own Asian identity. You know, I practiced several Filipino traditions. I loved that part of myself, but I just wanted to love it only as much as was convenient, I guess, for both myself and the people around me, whatever was palatable at the time. And it wasn't until 2018, so by that point I just graduated college, or was about to. I had just undergone about 4 years of a program in sociology where I really dug deep into racial and ethnic studies. And more than once, I probably even said throughout my undergrad, if I ever get into K-pop, things I'll never do is get into K-pop. I don't care how bored I am with life, I will never do it. And then lo and behold, it did end up happening, and that threw me for a huge loop, huge identity crisis. And then that's when I also came to terms with understanding so much of my adversity to this media had been out of self-hatred and hatred for a part of my community, that something that is important to my community. And while again, not every Asian American is going to love K-pop, nor should they, because we're not a monolith, it was something that helped me tap into more of my identity and my community. And I think that ties back into, I think someone had said earlier about revolutionary love, probably was Deanne, and the love of oneself. And that has really informed now a lot of who I am today, and a lot of why I want to work for the Revolutionaries is that that confidence now in myself and my interests, accepting that it's part of a community that I love, and that it is okay for me as an Asian person in a predominantly white area to love as well.
Yeah, I think it's great to see the two different sides of this, because Manilyn and I are both Asian American in identity, and we're approaching it from very different ways. I started out with an Asian identity. I felt the need to go out and get an American one to fit in. And now we're reconciling the other way around, with her American identity going back to reach for her Asian one. But I think what we're actually speaking to here on a much broader scale is we have that Asian American connection, but what we are actually talking about for the revolutionary identity is the idea that we all really want to love ourselves. I think the common identity for everyone here, and hopefully for the audience as well, is that we have all gone through, or likely still are on, a journey to understand all of the aspects of ourselves, love those aspects, and then hopefully help other people appreciate their special things about them too. So I think that when we come to talk about identity, what we really want to do is respect and love all identities and let people find out what their true identities are, whether that be Asian, Asian American, or anything else like that. Because the K-pop community is very big, and we like to talk about the Asian American group there, but we have a lot of people who are not Asian American or Asian American, and we've invited them all here, and I think that's what makes Revolutionaries so amazing. It is that true identity of love.
And I think something that we had talked about the other day was also, it's been a revolution in and of itself to get to where we are today. I don't know if you had mentioned that just yet, but I think that is such a powerful statement to hopefully, I guess we can wrap up on that. I don't know if we are planning on doing like Q&A or questions for each segment or anything, but I've been seeing some of the comments.
Well, if anyone, have a look at the comments, everyone. It's wonderful. Everyone is really resonating with what you've just said. If anyone watching has any questions for anyone in particular, please let us know now, and I'll put them up on the screen. So the reason why I really wanted Madeline and Laurie to talk about identity, obviously identity for me in my life has been a massive theme, but I do acknowledge that I have never once truly had to consider my cultural identity. It never comes up in conversation. People do not treat me or talk to me any differently. It's just never something I have to think about. And I totally acknowledge that. Of course, I have my own internal struggles with my whiteness and the shame that I feel, but we won't touch on that. But it's just more my total interest in identity and wanting to explore and give voice to everyone's identity expressions and not be the one that's having the conversation myself. So I've created this space and I've connected with amazing people from all around the world. Now it's time for all of you to speak yourselves and tell us, especially me, the white person in a position of power, what we need to know, what I need to know about your experiences and how we can become more revolutionary in our approaches. And the way that we're starting that is just by creating the space and saying, here you go, tell us your story. And that just speaks back to the amazing power of telling our own stories and speaking ourselves. So, of course, it's no mistake that we are a company based in fandom and a K-pop fandom, which is an Asian fandom. So that's also why I really wanted Madeline and Laurie to talk about that, because it is so integral to who we are as a company, but it has not always been integral to who I am and my identity. And that's why I will always defer to Asian people to talk about everything related to their identity and culture. And that's just the number one thing I or anyone else can do. I hope you're smiling because I said the right thing, everyone. That's just how I feel. And I'm so grateful to Madeline and Laurie for having that discussion. And I think you can already tell that we're coming up with so many ideas for future segments. So stay tuned for how we can like build on these ideas and create more spaces for these dialogues. Someone wants to know, how are we all so inspirational? Yeah, well, you're just going to have to figure that one out for yourself. We are just who we are. And I mean, I think it's amazing that we're just able to share our stories and listen to what Madeline and Laurie just said so openly and in this format. And that's what is so inspiring, because we're just everyday people coming together, sharing our love languages in many different ways. And the follow-up question is, what are we all drinking? I mean, I'm drinking water. Trish, you what are you drinking? You're drinking something else. We're not going to say, don't say, but it's not water. But you know, it's morning time here in Australia, so let's keep it G-rated, all right, for all ages. Okay, so we're going to move on. Thank you so much. I already said it so many times. Thank you so much, Madeline and Laurie. I look forward to creating another video sometime soon where you two can continue talking about all of these themes and maybe do like another Q&A with the audience. So next up, I'd like to delve a little deeper into the importance of fandom. Why is being a part of fandom so important from a marketing perspective? So we're getting very different here, but this is just another element of us at Revolutionaries, because I do believe marketing is just an extension of communicating with everyone else and letting them know what our visions, what our goals are, and connecting with people. So let's take it from a more sociological understanding. Yes, that's how I understand marketing, but of course we are a business and we would like to sell things. So what else can we learn from how fandom operates to further grow our business? So for this one, I'm going to go to Trish and Pam.
Thank you. Thanks. So I briefly touched upon what is having your marketing situated in fandom earlier in my presentation, but I think adding a bit of a more personal note to this discussion is actually gonna flow better, and it's gonna give me some space to actually explain some of the ideas that I keep in mind every time that I'm approaching our customers or thinking of how to approach our customers. So one of the main points that I would like to cover is that companies based in fandom already have a pretty clear idea of what their target customers would look like or act like or be interested in. I know from personal experience that thinking of selling or promoting books to someone who has similar hobbies or interests like me is gonna give me some first-hand experience, not as only a marketer, but as potential consumer of the products that I'm trying to promote. Yes, this is just one of my first points, but is there anything that you'd like to add to this, Pam?
Yes, from my perspective, which is more like market research, working with fandoms actually gives you like more dimensions to your customers or consumers, and not just like be defined by, I don't know, like you buy this particular brand or this particular product. So it's a way to think of consumers as diverse people, as like more that have richer lives, inner lives. And so then you can also have more like authentic communication and marketing efforts, and not just, well, you buy this brand and this is all I'm going to talk about, like offers and promotions. So that's what I really like about fandoms.
Yeah, and the other thing is that whenever you're trying to find out something new, something that you don't personally have experience with, or you are wondering about, you always know where to go. There are all these private groups and all these forums where you can just pop a little comment or post something, and then someone would respond, especially in K-pop and especially in ARMY, because people are so willing to contribute to whatever research academics are doing to do with ARMY or BTS, and people are so warm and responding to any request that a fellow ARMY might have. I know that Oda has experienced this firsthand, and I'm only gonna steal some of the stuff that she spoke about in her own presentation earlier, but only because we went to the same uni, we went through all the coursework together, and I will never forget when she decided to completely change her undergrad dissertation topic and focus on BTS instead of, I don't even remember what the first topic was about. She prepared a very, very a very detailed survey, and she just dropped one post on Reddit. And after that, receiving so many responses, actually being told to stop researching because she couldn't have handled all the different comments flying in, all the different data that she had to analyze afterwards. I will always keep this in my mind when I'm trying to promote something to ARMY, just knowing how well they respond to anything, any calls for help, anything really. It's such a diverse community, and it's so nice knowing that we're all part of it, and all trying to not only be part of it from a personal perspective, but also professionally.
Yes, and it's also not just like participation in numbers, but also in quality. In market research, we sometimes have like professional participants, like people that are just looking for focus groups or surveys in which they can participate and they receive money in change. But with fandoms and especially ARMY, that doesn't happen because everyone wants to like give authentic answers and like really in-depth answers. So if you ask something, it's not just people answering because they're gonna receive like money or a prize back. It's just because they really want to help you make the best of what you've got. And I think that's the best kind of feedback that you can get.
Yeah, and the whole sort of communication is just it's so natural. It's like, even when you're trying to convince a friend who is also an ARMY to not even buy a product, just to pick their interest in a book that your company is publishing, it's so easy to draw new readers, to pick the interest of completely new audiences, and then just drawing in one person from the outside might actually end up in drawing tens or even like hundreds of new people, just because this person is obviously linked to other people, and then they're linked to their own circle of friends or acquaintances. And I'm fascinated by how open-minded ARMY is, and how it's not like normal marketing. It feels like you're almost speaking to someone that you already know. You know what to say, you know how to promote a title or an article, or just like a little post on social media. You know how to advertise it without actually advertising it, because you're actually you're showing someone a new perspective. It almost feels like you're recommending different perspective to someone that you know.
Yes, and like when you have a completely different community and then you have to spend time figuring out how to talk to them, or like, I don't know, I've had some research projects where it's very difficult to just get into the community because you're an outsider. And here it's more like you just need to know like sort of the limit, so to speak, like what is right to say. Like, for example, in some parts of the fandom, they don't like sexualizing BTS or the members, and then in other parts of the fandom they don't like talking about, for example, your personal projects. So it depends on where you're moving, but it's easier to navigate in that sense.
Yeah, of course, totally. And then the other thing is obviously working with this group of people, not only trying to understand them, but essentially trying to promote a product. It all comes with its own responsibilities, and we as marketeers and as professionals working with this fan base, we need to sometimes we need to take a step back and just allow our readers and our potential customers to build their own opinion of our company, because it can't all be just like action plan. Sometimes it needs to be subtle and it needs to take its own course.
Yeah. Yes, it's like a tricky place to be in, where you're promoting something and you want people to buy it, but then also like you don't want to be opportunistic and be like, hey, buy my product, and and just be like an attention seeker all the time. So yeah, it's just threading like I don't know, like a transparent or very clear path, and also being authentic, because I think that the best thing about being inside the fandom and part of the fandom is that we have the same values, and so we know when it's fishy or when it would be like opportunistic. So yeah, I think that's like a way to grow more authentic and relevant brands, because you know which values you're grounded on.
Yeah, I feel like just to sum up, it's good knowing our customers, or being able to explore different audiences and potential new consumers of our titles. It's definitely beneficial knowing the fandom from the inside, but it's also really, really interesting trying to build ourselves as professionals and trying to grow as professionals while also working alongside fellow army and having the opportunity to grow within the fandom, and not only to expand our skill set and to expand our knowledge of publishing or marketing or whatever else there is that we're interested in professionally, but also to apply all of our findings to something that we definitely enjoy in our spare time.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Trish and Pam. That was amazing. We were all just in our private chat box fangirling over the both of you. And this is once again a topic that I think we will have to expand on in a future video. So please, everyone, keep an eye out for that. I'm just going to rope everyone into creating more content for us. But I think these are really meaningful conversations which not only explore like what we're thinking and doing at Revolutionaries, but also like just open up a broader discussion with everyone. Which I think is awesome. So on to the next point. Creating work that is visually and aesthetically pleasing is important to us. And of course, it's an absolute reflection of the fandom we are situated in and all that we want to bring into the world. Paula and Oda, how do we differ with how we make books? What can be learned from fandom in regards to making art, in this case a book, into an aesthetic commodity?
Well, after Trish and Pam, I'm like, wow. So yeah, I think the emphasis on visual and aesthetic work is a must for us. For me, actually, the process of designing every brand for our imprint is quite complex, because I want to make sure it represents not only a name like a word, but also it kind of is a glimpse of our trade and uniqueness. And it actually, the same thing happens when it comes to book covers, especially if they are part of a collection. I think it's like K-pop albums or books have to be designed as objects of value and quality. So basically the covers have to be designed to match the hard work from the rest of the team. Oda, what do you think?
Yeah. I just so we keep being told as humans that we shouldn't judge books by their covers, and then that for some reason is a bad thing. But I personally don't think it is. We as humans, and we're just creatures, right? We're just animals, and we are visual creatures, and we like things that are pretty. And it's saying that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover and you shouldn't care about a cover removes the sort of credit and all the work that is done by all the clever artists and the designers that are working on making a book appealing to its intended audience. It's not just it's not done in half an hour. It's not done in 4 minutes. This is something that takes a lot of time and a lot of thinking, and it's something that we put a lot of thought into, and we want to make sure that what we create is something that reaches the audience we want it for and reaches the audience that would want this. And I think the visual package of it, especially when marketing online, is incredibly important. And a publishing house, or like Revolutionaries, we can offer these sort of professional expertise. And Wallea did mention this earlier about the stigma around self-publishing, and at Revolutionaries we have people leading departments based on their knowledge, and having all this knowledge combined into a single person would be incredibly demanding, especially on top of if that person was also the author of the book. So I think this is one of the benefits of publishing with a publisher and not self-publishing, where one person does everything or they need to outsource things. I think we have the sort of stability and the knowledge that we need to make our books reach the audience that we want them for. And there are also special needs for book covers that sort of standard or regular designers might not have knowledge of without the experience. And there are special things that we need to take into account. And the artwork can't just stand on their own. As Paula sort of mentioned, we want the art and the aesthetic things that we produce to convey a message about the content of, say, a book, which I think is something we should focus on and we should talk about, and it is important. So yeah, that's sort of my thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think what we can take from this to sum up is that mainly our goal as both a company and also ourselves being book consumers, because everyone from here has a passion for books, is to make high quality books that ourselves would love to buy. And I think design plays a crucial role in that. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting thing.
All right, thank you so much. And something else I really wanted to interject is what we're really interested in. Because we are situated in K-pop fandom, we are also looking at many different ways K-pop does things, such as creating commodities, creating albums, how, for example, the Love Yourself trilogy works aesthetically in terms of a style and a design, how even down to the use of photo cards and other merchandise. And we are looking at how we can incorporate this into what we offer as a book company. So although we have a very specific look that we've been using at Revolutionaries, this is just the beginning. This is just where we're starting from, and we're all learning and growing together. We are definitely taking our inspiration from not only BTS, but all of K-pop, and bringing it over into the world of books. And you'll see many projects throughout this year that are doing just that. And we have some really clear ideas on how we will achieve that. And so what Oda and Paula were saying is that design is incredibly important to communicate the interior of the book, like the actual concepts, but also to connect with the right people. And now we are going to be moving more into design to turn our books into more than just a book commodity, but something that people have an emotional attachment to, something that people want to take a photo of, and collect more merch and memorabilia in relation to the book as well, or the author. Because traditionally, books all have if you look at all the best-selling books in the world from all the major companies out there, they all do have a certain look. And I even saw a tweet that Oda shared the other day about like how there just seems to be two categories of a book, and one of them is like a floral cover. And that's totally true for a lot of books that we see coming out at the moment. We're more interested in communicating directly with our community. And so we're not going for like the really big snazzy cover that's very bold text and like minimal art. We're trying to turn it into a bigger art project where we are engaging with other artists to create the artwork for the cover and interpret the book in their own words and empower them in their work as well. So that's where we're building from. And then we plan to totally still diverge from what traditional publishing is doing by turning our eyes and our focus to K-pop and incorporating more of their practices in terms of aesthetics and design and processes, but also in terms of merchandising and marketing and business. And that's really what you can look forward to coming up this year. So Paula, we have a quick question just for a bit of fun from the audience. I'm going to put it up on the screen right now for you to read.
Nice. I'm happy that I got a question. So what are those squares in my wall? Young Forever is my favorite album of all time. And also Tear, probably. Oh, those squares are Pantone. Pantone? Is it said Pantone or Pantone?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Pantone colors. I have like a really big box with different colors. And I just like to make color palettes because I'm really bored and I don't leave my house because of quarantine. And yeah, that's it.
Fantastic.
Just getting some inspiration, you know.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, you're meant to find a new color for Bulletproof. You've got some other logos to work on. So while you're sleeping, you've got to be looking at that Pantone wall,
Exactly.
working hard. Yep. That's good to know. All right. So we're going to move on to the next one. Oh, hello. So we believe in the transformative power of storytelling. Aurora, why do you think it's important that we create a space for ARMY? Oh my gosh, I lost my notes. And everyone else to share their stories?
Look, to start off with, it's like there's really no mistake that every single presentation that's been part of Festa has mentioned this in some way, has mentioned the importance of ARMY sharing their voice, you know, from our very first presentation based on the launch of I Am ARMY to my own presentation to the last two, Oda's and Trish's, like even Madeline's as well, like they've all mentioned ARMY speaking themselves. And the reason why, like, this is such a founding premise of Revolutionaries, of our company, it starts a year ago. Wallea shared her story earlier this morning about why we're here. It was her own voice wasn't being heard, not just as an ARMY, but as a human being, her own voice, her message that she had to share with the world. That was a valid message. It wasn't being spoken. She was told there wasn't space for that. And so she started Revolutionaries with that in her heart. And I feel like personally, this is one of the reasons why I'm a part of this revolution. And for all of our executive directors, I know that is why we're here too. We connect with Wallea's message. We connect with the way that she operates her business as well, by allowing us on a daily basis to speak our own voice in the way we come to our work. So more specifically, ARMY across the world, we've all had that experience where our stories have been told to us, you know, by someone who's not ARMY, someone outside looking in. We've been, you know, misrepresented and misunderstood, disrespected. And this in itself, it's not an experience that is unique to ARMY. This is what all, you know, marginalised voices experience at some point. And I think that is at the heart of Revolutionaries. It's not just about army. It never has been. It's about that marginalized voice. And, you know, having your own voice heard, and just as important, seeing your own voice reflected back at you, knowing that you're not alone. This is so fundamental to healing. When you feel seen and validated, this is where you find yourself and your strength, and this is when you start speaking yourself, and that is what it all comes down to, being able to speak yourself. And us playing a huge part in sharing Army's voice, we're searching for that honest and authentic voice and allowing people to find that healing in that way.
Amazing. All right. Well, I don't really have anything extra to add to that because Aurora did such a great job. And if you want to know more about that, of course, you can look at Aurora's panel. And of course, this is something that we'll keep talking about much further into the future. All right. So we're up to our final little discussion for the day, and then we're going to wrap up. So thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to try and hit it directly on the 2 hours and 30-minute mark. I can't believe we've been sitting there, sitting here for this long. Thank you so much for everyone who has been with us from the beginning until now, in more ways than one. All right, so Deanne, this is for you and me, mother. We are reappropriating the word revolutionary to stand for non-violence, justice, and love. Deanne, this draws from your love ethic model. Can you share a little with us about how we are incorporating this model at Revolutionaries and weaving it throughout our published work? You're on mute, by the way. Another embarrassing moment already.
Oh, there we go. I can cope with that one. First of all, my preceding colleagues' comments were just so inspiring. So just to bring this around to, yeah, the word revolutionary is really a call for us to step up and step not only into our voice and speaking our voice, but out in the world to contribute to what's not okay, yeah, to pay forward any privilege we might have or any visions or strengths for how we think we can contribute to the future. So just very quickly, the values that we live by are everything because they are at the heart of who we are. And so the love ethic model, which, you know, revolutionary social work is about, that our company is built on, has come up from the mass social movements of our time. You know, Black Lives Matter is a very obvious one. Climate change, the love of nature, the love of the whole planet. This is the big one that everything else sits within. So the values of love we've talked about more before. Love, non-violence, and justice are all the defining values that inspire the social movements of our time. And just to anchor it in one, I mean, there are so many that I wrote about in the book that I'm inspired by, but Gandhi as one example. What's so interesting about Gandhi, who was for over more than 20 years the leader of the revolution in India in the, well, way back, for independence from Britain. So they were being colonized. Yeah, here we are, a classic story of colonization. And he both led the revolution and this attempt to gain independence through his everyday practice of walking his talk, not asking of others what he wouldn't do himself. Yeah. And also talking up to power and challenging all the time. Yeah, resisting that the way it was how it had to be, resisting with love, challenging with love. Yeah, this is not okay, and working to bring about the change, not on his own, but with the whole country in different ways. And his concept of ahimsa, A-H-S-I-M-A, it's not his concept, ahimsa, it's a Buddhist concept, is at the heart of his practice, which is love. Everything he did with love. The other word, satyagraha, is non-violence. These are the two key principles, two key values that guided him through his whole situation. And he said in the end, if there's no ahimsa, no love, there will be no compassion and no desire to change the world for a better place. So when we set up Revolutionaries, we knew we had to do it in a way that was congruent with our values. Otherwise, we corrupt ourselves. Yeah. And our strength is in, as you've seen, people are standing in their truth and speaking their voice and working from their strength. This is how a revolution happens. And we're not the only people doing it. I think that's enough for now, given the tightness of time. But just to put a vote out to Bell Hooks in passing and finishing. Bell Hooks is an American feminist activist, Black woman, who says there is no oppression where there is love. So whatever you think love is, please be it, and it will matter. And this is what we're doing here in our revolutionary book company. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Deanne. So that's kind of where we've done a full circle. So we've come back from the beginning, where I was incredibly influenced by my mother's work, and of course by myself as my greatest inspiration. Yes, shout out to me. And I decided to create this company. And these were some of the guiding principles and ethics and morals that we operated on. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't, in the closing 1 minute, give a shout out to BTS, who of course have the amazing transcendent message of love yourself, speak yourself, which this whole company is also founded on. This was, when I first heard it, was obviously a message that was new to my ears. I'd never heard anyone say love yourself, speak yourself before, but it was something that resonated really deep within me because it aligned with my own life journey and everything that I saw in the world, but I didn't know really if anyone else saw it too. So to be able to build a company around fandom, especially around BTS and ARMY, though that will not remain the case, thanks to Laurie and her wonderful influence, we are going to rapidly change that. But of course, that's our origin story. Loving ourselves, speaking ourselves, that is something that's never over. That's something that's also very hard to define. We won't even get into that here, but that is what we're trying to do here at Revolutionaries. So where there is love, there is no oppression, and that's truly what we believe. And we think that we will start to achieve this in our own work through speaking ourselves and providing a platform for other people to speak themselves. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I'm going to wrap up really quickly now. Thank you to Oda, Aurora, Deanne, Trish, Pam, Manilyn, Laurie, Paula, I was looking at your last name for some reason. I nearly called you Poma. Thank you to me for existing. I am grateful. Thank you to everyone for joining in. Thank you to our bigger team. Oh, okay. So we have one question. Okay, Yessie, hello. Here's one of our team members giving me a question. Wallea, can you sum up how you feel about Revolutionaries turning a year old in one word? Well, the first word that came to mind started with F and ended in uck, but I'm gonna come up with a different one. I am so grateful. I think I'll start and end with gratitude. I think that's a great place to be. I could say a lot about this, and I will at another point in time. Thank you for the question. I am just really grateful for everything that happened to me. If I look back on the year, I could probably say a lot of it was negative, but what outshone all of that was connecting with everyone. And this team has now totally changed my life. And the work we're doing is changing my life, and I'm sure it's impacting everyone in many positive ways. Looking forward, I have nothing but gratitude and excitement for the year to come, and I look forward to meeting you all again in 2022 to talk about what we have done. So thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to end the broadcast here, 2 minutes 31. Oh my goodness, I went over. I'm so sorry. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. That's it. Stay tuned for more events, more information. Happy birthday, Revolutionaries. Goodbye.